Rage on that beat, going crazy.
Good morning, Hamptonians. Thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of our biennial, the 14th biennial. Thank you again for taking the time on this Saturday to be a part of this great event that we've got. If you remember from last week, we had the conversation with Dr. Harvey, and then also I gave you an update on the NHAA and what's going on there. So today is the second part of why the biennial is so important to us. As far as the tradition goes, and it's around the different workshops that we have. So we have a really exciting agenda that should be able to help you grow, as well as help you be able to move yourself forward, not just around what chapters can do, but also what you can do personally. So just a couple of housekeeping things that I want to just remind you all of. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the little subscribe button where I think it's down there somewhere. I'm just going to act like I can see it. And then also, if you have any questions, we are taking questions for all of the different workshops today through our email address, similar to what we did in day 1. So email us at biennial2020@nhaainc.org. Finally, remember that the chat is open. So this is an opportunity for you to connect and communicate with other alum, and make sure you shout yourself out with classes and everything. I'm class of 98, quintessence 3, so there's my shout out. And then finally, we do have a link down below that is also focused in on raising money for our student emergency fund. So please make sure that if you can, send over a donation today. I also want to take a quick minute and send out prayers to everyone that may be impacted by all the different natural disasters that are going on, and any alumni that might be impacted from that. If there's anything that's needed from the NHAA, you can also email that to the biennial email that I just shared. So I'm going to get us kicked off. I'm all about, I'm really excited to see what's coming next and to hear from these very smart gentlemen. We've got Dr. Michael Eric Dyson and Dr. James Peterson coming up next to have a conversation. So I'll come back later. Take it away, guys.
Yes, well, I'm glad you're beginning there. My condolences to the family of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a feminist icon, an icon for social justice, a woman who told Bruce Roberts when he voted in that now landmark voting rights case a few years back, when certain restrictions that had been imposed, especially upon southern states, were struck down, and pre-clearance and other things in the Voting Rights Act gutted so much of the infrastructure of protection for that Voting Rights Act and law. And she told Chief Justice Roberts, you're saying that, you know, we've looked at it in the last few years, there have been no problems. That's because the stuff is in place to keep the problems from existing. She said, that's just like going out talking about you ain't getting rained on because you got an umbrella, but because you don't get rained on, you'll take away the umbrella, right? In that powerful analogy. So she was a remarkable woman. She held on as long as she could. She was trying to hold on so that the next presidency would be able to determine the next Supreme Court justice, hoping and praying, I'm certain, that it would not be Donald Trump. And so when we talk about people who politicize people's death, oh, how dare you? Let's just acknowledge her life without politicizing her death. She herself said her last wish is that the next president would choose her successor. So she politicized her death. She understood the political consequences of her living and dying. What a great woman, what a grand tradition, what a legacy that borrowed in part from the great Pauli Murray, a great path-breaking legal mind and jurist in our community, African-American, and who in her second act, so to speak, became the first Black Episcopal priest, female, ordained in America. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg has a tremendous legacy. We hope and pray that Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and these other paleontals, paleo-conservatives, will not be able to prevail. And I beg of you, all of you out there, especially you millennials and you Zexennials and everything else afterward, please get out and vote. Enough of this. It don't make no difference. My vote don't count. Stop. It does. If you can only choose the next person who will choose the next 4, possibly, Supreme Court justices. Because if Mitch McConnell gets through the Senate, which is likely, let's be honest, the next Supreme Court person, nominee who then becomes a member of the Supreme Court, that's a 6-3 majority for the conservatives on that court. Please understand how that affects you as a young person. Please understand the laws that are at risk when you do such a thing. So please get out and vote.
Mm-hmm. No, thanks for some. I mean, Roe v. Wade would be on the table, affirmative action, gerrymandering, Citizens United. I mean, there's a rack of really, really important cases that will come under that court. Thank you for that, Dr. Dyson. I want to kind of get back to the program a little bit. And obviously, this is an organization, the Hampton Alumni Organization, that's committed to the sustainability of diversity. I mean, that's part of why we're here. When you look at HBCUs in the 21st century, can you talk a little bit, think with us a little bit about what it's going to take to make our institutions robust and sustainable in perpetuity? How do we make our institutions last going forward?
Well, we need to produce some more billionaires like Robert Smith who are going to drop off 40 mil when they give a commencement speech. That would be ideal, right? That would be the easiest, most direct fashion. But we know that ain't going to happen. We know that, Dr. King said, justice is better than charity. So your notion of making them robust and sustainable suggests that we have to deal with infrastructure. We have to deal with systemic and structural issues. As we talk about systemic racism, let's talk about systemic justice. Let's talk about systemic financial and economic support for our institutions. Number 2, it would make a difference if the alumni and alumnus and alumna, I'm trying to get all those words in there, all the men and women and other people and gender binary folk, whoever graduates from these institutions of whatever race would give back, would have some serious giving. Now, we know that Black people do give more than they are given credit for, but we ain't got the same kind of deep pockets that white alumni of other and alumnus and alumna of other schools and institutions do. But we got to dig deep for what we do possess and give back. And then thirdly, we got to figure out a way. I mean, one of the reasons that 1 out of every 5 Black men is supporting Donald Trump at college age, in college, Black men, let me say that more elegantly, 1 out of 5 Black college age men, males, according to a poll, are supporting Donald Trump. Now, what in the heck is going on there? Instead of just throwing darts at them, though I want to throw some darts, the reality is that some of them think, well, Donald Trump was more visibly, vocally supportive of HBCUs than even previous presidents. And so they get hoodwinked and bamboozled and misled to believe that this man has done a whole bunch. Our very dear, for HBCUs, our dear friend Walter Kimbrough, the president of Dillard, says, slow down with all that, that calculation. It ain't as great as you think it is. So for me, however, we need the support of the president, of the Congress, of senators and congresspeople, funneling funds toward these institutions, which are increasingly multiracial, always have been open. Their borders have never been fixed. They didn't build walls to prevent people from coming to these institutions, but they provided a necessary space. And people go, well, why are y'all tripping? Since they let white folk in and Latinx people in, and they let in a lot of Middle Eastern folk, that's a good thing. And it is, and we celebrate that. But that would be like asking all women's school, why are you tripping? We got some men in there. You need the dough. Let's get some guys in there. The whole point of an all women's college is to get rid of other issues that are introduced in co-ed education. The whole point of having a historically Black college and university is to create a majority culture of African American or Black people more broadly throughout the diaspora, which is why Kamala Harris is a Black woman who went to HU, the other one, sorry y'all, Howard University, and was an AKA. What you want? So, you know, when we go to these institutions of higher education that happen to be Black and historically Black, it makes a big difference. It provides an atmosphere, a climate that is presumptuous of, in the best sense of the word, a Blackness that takes Blackness as the starting point of existence and ain't got to keep explaining why it's important for Black people to be on a Black college, to go to have Black and other kinds of teachers engaging them. So all that stuff is necessary. The money, the means, the moral conscience that we must generate, and the kind of awareness that these institutions have served us and still in disproportionate fashion produce graduates of American, institutions of higher education. People with college degrees come out of Black schools.
Yeah, more Black professionals than their white counterparts. It's been that way for forever.
Still, and let me just say this. My 3 kids went to HBCUs and graduated, right? Mm-hmm. Morehouse, Spelman, and the real HU, Hampton University. 1993, Dr. Mawada Dyson, what up, bruh? What up? So I'm representing for you this morning. So these institutions are extremely important.
Yeah, and Doc, a lot of folks, thank you for letting us know about your children who've all attended HBCUs, but a lot of folks don't know that you yourself attended an HBCU. Can you talk about your own personal HBCU experiences?
Right, I sure did, man. I was an older student. I was 21 years old, the age that most students are graduating. You know, I was just going to college by a series of foibles, faults, and fractures, failures, and other things that I was doing, out there tripping a little bit, wasn't living up to my potential, got kicked out of a secondary school, went to a very prestigious private school, got kicked out, went back to the hood, graduated from night school. I don't even know if they have night school anymore. Night school, bruh, where you could go get your diploma. I got a diploma. Yes, I have a diploma. So get your GED, and got my diploma, and then start working as emergency substitute janitor at night in the schools because I got a young lady pregnant. We often lie about our backgrounds and stuff. I ain't saying it was a shotgun wedding, but a revolver was in the room. So she got pregnant. I married her. Then she decided she didn't love me. I don't know why I'm telling my story this morning. And so I was like, man, here I am, a young person. The woman doesn't love me. I was 18. She was 26. Slow down with the applause. I understand. It was remarkable. So, but I had my son. I'm out here hustling in the street, not hustling that way, y'all. I was around that, but I was cleaning lawns, mowing lawns, sodding, grass cutting, picking up steel with my father in the streets, taking it downtown to get weighed, trying to hustle, make some dough in the underground economy that wasn't filled with drugs. And then, I said, then I worked in a factory. Then I got a job at an automobile factory. Then I got one working as a clerk, got fired from that job, I think unfairly. And then I said at 21, I need to go to college. Some people in my church had gone to Knoxville College. So I said, let me call Knoxville College up. I called them up, got in my documents and my test scores and my transcripts. And then they called me up and said, and the next day, as Sam Cooke said, I took an armful of Greyhound and made my way. I took a Greyhound bus from Detroit, Michigan, down to Knoxville, Tennessee. And I ain't gonna lie, y'all, when I got to the camp, I was like, no, I got there, took a cab from the bus station to the college. I said, no, I'm going to a college. I'm going to Knoxville College. It's a college. And it was very modest. And I was like, my God, but I tell you what, the education was incredible. Mrs. Stewart, who was my English teacher, who stoked my hunger for writing, was there. And a few other teachers who made a big difference in my life. And so I stayed there. And for the first 2 years of my college education, I only transferred because I wanted to study philosophy. We didn't have but one philosophy teacher at that HBCU. So I transferred to a Southern Baptist school and got my degree, but my education began and significantly was shaped by an HBCU, Knoxville College. What up? Let's reopen the doors again. We got to open that school again.
Come on. Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk HBCUs with you all morning, but our time is limited here. We're going to have to open it up for Q&A in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Cool.
But Doc, we're living under the conditions of a global pandemic, and part of what has come to the fore, part of what's been foregrounded over the last 4 or 5 months, are a range of social and health disparities along the coordinates of race and class. So can you talk a little bit about what you've been talking about and writing about and thinking about in terms of what the pandemic has exposed along the lines of race? And I don't think enough people are thinking about how do we address it long term? What are some of the solutions for that? One way to think about entering into the conversation is every university had to make different kinds of preparations to adjust to the pandemic. But my sense is that HBCUs, just like their Black counterparts when it comes to health, also have a disparate impact of the pandemic on the institutions themselves. And so talk a little about how race has been exposed in the pandemic. And then on the back end of that, what are some of the solutions and how do we redress some of these gaping disparities of race when it comes to health or to institutions themselves?
Right. No, it's brilliantly put. I would say the most simple, direct thing we can do is get rid of this president. That's how you gonna help the issue, because this dude has jacked the process up, right? I could give you a bunch of big words. Dr. Peterson is a wordsmith. He could give you a bunch of big words. The dude done jacked the country up, y'all. I mean, here's a guy who's anti-science. Scientificity is itself an idol and a craven disregard for spirit and morality sometimes when it's worship. I get all that. Mm-hmm. But we ain't talking about worshiping at the altar of science. We talking about, God dang it, if the science says, put a mask on. If you really, really love me, put a mask on me. I wish Beyonce would remake that and do that. I just thought of that. That would be dope. If you really, really love me, put a mask on me. Da, 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 da. All right. So put a mask on. That's science, because you help another person, not just yourself primarily. Science. Stop opening up spaces that need to be closed down. I ain't been out the crib but 12, 13 times, maybe 14 in the last 6 months. I'm an old Black man. I take that seriously, bruh. I'm staying inside. I'm not trying to fool with this. I'm trying to prevent the spread of a preventable virus, preventable if our president wasn't a bigot, a xenophobe, the Chinese virus. You bigot in chief, because if you had not tried to blame the Chinese and instead looked at what was going on here in America and how we were vulnerable, we would have been able to stop the spread of it. Then he's admitted to Bob Woodward in the book Rage. Yeah, I knew that it was, a problem, but I didn't want to cause panic. Oh, so I'll just put your lives at stake. So very quickly, you're absolutely right. It exposes the gaping holes that you speak about. Black people are more vulnerable because of heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and the like. And then people go, well, that's Black people's problem. If y'all were in shape and weren't messing up, you could be less vulnerable. Here's why we're messed up, Jack. Because we don't have access to health care. That's the point. It's still a structural systemic issue. And guess what? They did a study the other day. Even Black doctors treat Black babies better and they live longer if it's a Black doctor versus a white one. Tell me that's a racist conclusion. No, it's a racially charged disparity that has a racial consequence. The white doctors, what are they basically saying? They don't really care that much about. We don't love them infants. Right? The same way we won't go the extra mile, think more seriously about what we can do, see those babies as our babies. That's what the empirical data have suggested about those babies. So then when you look across the board, we don't have equal access. We have disproportionate rates of the presence of these diseases because we can't get them stopped earlier. We use the emergency ward as healthcare intervention and maintenance. And as much as you want to jack up Obamacare, And yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was better than this, what we have tried to go to now. So vote like your life depends on it, because it does. Respect the science. Fauci is fighting against the president to get the real rules out there that would prevent us from being hurt. The CDC had to walk back yesterday the fact that it said, no, you don't have to use a mask at all. This is what we're dealing with, people. You have an anti-science person. We wish he would be anti-racist, except he's a bigot and a racist. He is embracing neo-fascism, and that has consequence on your health. And the pandemic of race joins the pandemic of the virus to come together. And what did they both say? I can't breathe. The police hurting black people and the virus hurting us disproportionately. Voting will help both of those, believe it or not, along with social justice activism and resistance out there. That's sloppy. That's not elegant. But at the end of the day, that will make a big difference. The biggest thing you can do, wear a mask, stay your black butt at home if you can. And if you have to go on the front line, since so many of us do, frontline workers, preparing people's food, black, Latinx, going out here delivering food, black, Latinx, going out here delivering healthcare, black and Latinx, making sure that other people don't have the virus while you're trying to check the temperatures of people who are being let into old folks' homes, black and Latinx. So we are on the front line. Wear your mask, please. I know you look like a stick-up kid, but still wear the mask, right? So that you get, and plus it takes years off your life. Let's be vain. I mean, my God, when I wear the mask, nobody can see all this gray. So it's a beautiful thing. So people, please do that if you're black, and vote this guy out of office.
We're going to break a little bit of news here. You got a book coming out soon.
Yes, sir.
In your upcoming book, you take a very clear-eyed look at the racial reckoning that's currently unfolding in America. Can you share with the audience your sense of the movement for Black lives and the racial divide in America in the 21st century?
Yes, sir. Thanks for that plug. Long time coming. But I know a change gonna come. Okay, if Sam Cooke heard that, he'd turn over in his grave. So, yeah, long time coming, reckoning with race in America. And as you say, you know, the movement for Black lives has been huge. It's been big, right? It's beautiful. It's a powerful movement. 5 years ago, get out of here, whatever, stop. Black people themselves, these young people, boy. Now the young people are defending them. See, raise your kids right so they can help and protect you. That's what you do. Raise folk who love you enough to regard the lessons you gave them and take them further. We're handing the baton off. And boy, did these kids take it. What did they do? They got the greatest movement for social justice in the history of the nation, right? John Lewis just died. He was one of the greats. Upon his shoulders they stood. They did something John Lewis ain't done. Jesse Jackson ain't done. Martin Luther King Jr. ain't done. Respect their game. Rosa Parks ain't done. So, yeah, you can talk about their Twitter fingers and stop them Twitter fingers. You can talk about their cancel culture. Cancel culture. Y'all nuts with that. Okay, I'm praising you, but you're crazy with the cancel culture. But what have the Black Lives Matter folk done? Transformed the possibility of American protest. They got more white folk involved. Look how genius they are. Hey, let's get some white folk to help us out here so that maybe sometimes the police batons won't come as heavily as they would have ordinarily. They still come, but not as necessarily as powerful as before. Look at white brothers and sisters putting their lives on the line with us. The two white men who died in Kenosha because of a 17-year-old boy with a gun, with an AK-47 and an AR, for a semi-automatic rifle. Can we say how idiotic and evil that is in America? It's the Second Amendment, not the Second Commandment. Thou shalt have a gun. That's not what it says. So here's a guy that Trump would embrace, a guy who was motivated, at least, if not a member of a militia, motivated by the desire to go there to tamp down on the expression of rights of black and brown and white people, red and yellow and other ethnicities, to protest. And the president embraces them and has nothing to say, or hardly anything to say, about those who are viciously attacked, and really wants to reinforce this law and order. Black Lives Matter put it on. But let me tell you what, to go back old school, without Al Sharpton, ain't none of that happening. Without Al Sharpton's insistence, when it was Big Al, you know how they say Little Luther and Big Luther? You know, when you had Big Al and Little Al, right? And you had Big Al with the running suits and stuff. Yeah. Hey, he was out there. I was with Al Sharpton in the late 90s when we were arrested after the killing, I think, of Diallo. And then when Luima was, viciously assaulted by a police person with a plunger stuck up his behind, we were out there getting protested. Me and James Forbes, the Reverend Dr. James Forbes, who would go on to pastor Riverside and the like. So, Sharpton was out there long before, but a lot of bourgeois Negroes, well, I tell you, that's for you Negroes out here who are misbehaving. You wouldn't have to deal with the police if you weren't out here misbehaving. We thought it was a class thing. We thought it was an age thing. And lo and behold, Negroes with degrees getting arrested, shot, stabbed, beat up by the police, tasered by the, wait a minute now, Sharpton was ahead of that curve. So there would be no Black Lives Matter movement without a Reverend Al Sharpton and a Jesse Jackson who were on those streets. But Al Sharpton saw police brutality as the central, if you will, as the central civil rights issue of our times. And Black Lives Matter has taken it to the next level and blown it up. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And they have not only talked about police brutality, economic inequality, read their documents in terms of a Black agenda, read Robin Kelly, not the congresswoman, but the scholar at UCLA, read his, in Boston Review, his brilliant engagement with the Black Lives Matter political agenda. Because people keep saying, well, what's the plan? What's the plan? We got a plan. Can you read? Stop asking Black people for plans when you ain't reading the plans they got. What's the plan? What are you doing? Do you read? And stop expecting LeBron James, Alex Villanueva, the deputy, the sheriff, right, the head of in LA, who said now that two, and God bless those two officers who were shot. We are against violence no matter where it occurs. And they were sitting in their car and got shot by a civilian. And we pray for them and we pray for their recovery. But be as sensitive to us when your police kill us the same way. And stop asking LeBron in a smart ass way to now put up $175,000. Why don't you stop killing Negroes? Why don't you stop killing brown people? In Villanueva, I assume you have some Latinx sensitivity there, homie. What you think? Don't reinforce the Black-brown divide. Don't think that you are passing as a white person because it's non-white Hispanic. Don't think that you have overcome these odds. You get caught on the wrong side of the bed getting up. You get caught on the wrong side of the sheet. You get caught on the wrong side of the street, sir. You might be subject to the same thing. So don't ask us to have sensitivity for, which we should have, compassion for, which we should have. The police have that same stuff for Black and brown people who are dying disproportionately. So the movement for Black Lives Matter is, as the young people say, is everything.
We have a lot of questions coming in here, Doc, so I'm going to
answer. All right.
The first question is, with the increased focus on the Black Lives Matter movement, what can we do to keep the conversation front and center?
Keep talking about it. Y'all keep talking about it in the cribs, when you go to your jobs. Look, the Reverend Marcia Dyson, my wife, says, well, this is Black Christmas, man. And so white folk are going to be in the mood for about 6 months, then they gone. Let's be real. You can hate what she said, but it's real. So let's take advantage of, first of all, of Black Christmas for the time it exists. Let's talk about DE&I stuff. Let's talk about going to corporations. Let's talk about divvying up the pie more equitably. Yeah, but let's also use it to leverage infrastructure and systemic and structural change. It ain't enough to give us Black Christmas. We want Black Easter. On the resurrection. We want every holiday. In other words, we want you to make it a habit. If it's a habit to hate Black people, if it's a habit to be racist, it can be a habit to love Black people, and it can be a habit to be more egalitarian. So let's deeply root it in the culture. Let's have it deeply entrenched in society. We know we are fighting against the odds. As Ibram Kendi has reminded us recently, anti-racism is something we must do. And even though I love Dr. Ibram Kendi, I just don't think everybody's equally racist. I think that there's some structural realities that are far more prohibitive with dominant society than ours, but he's doing a brilliant job. And those of us who are out here, read books, think about it, encourage white folk to become better allies. As Bettina Love says, co-conspirators with the traditions of white folk like John Brown putting their necks on the line. John Brown, Viola Luizzo, Heather Heyer there in Charlottesville a couple years ago. White brothers and sisters being equally involved will make a huge difference. Those are a few things we can do to make a difference.
Gotcha. Next question is, for our young brothers who may be struggling to make sense of this time of racial unrest, What three things do you advise be done to help preserve the sanity and increase the confidence of our young Black kings?
First of all, read Fire Next Time, The Fire Next Time. Have them read that opening letter of James Baldwin to his nephew. Please, Dr. Peterson's a literary genius. He can break that down for you. Number one, read The Fire Next Time. Number two, read the autobiography of Malcolm X. It's still, despite whatever, flaws that are revealed there, and it is problematic, and the late, great Manning Marable made that clear, it's still a useful book to see how you can start at the bottom. Now I'm here. I would say also listen to Drake. Listen to Drake and read the autobiography of Malcolm X. That's number two, right? Oh, you hating on Drake? Look, started at the bottom. Now I'm here. So number three, what we can do is older people can mentor younger people with love. Remember where you were. What were you doing at the age these kids are changing the world? You all critical and stuff. I jumped in on the cancel culture and stuff. That's because they got so much power on the internet and it's some crazy stuff. But for the most part, these young people are doing incredible things that are extremely important. So you got to ask yourself, what were you doing at their age, and encourage them, and then learn from them, and then join them in the struggle. So that's what we can do for these young kings. And then fourthly, I know you didn't ask that, love young queens. Don't be dogging them. Don't be calling them bitch, hoe, skeezer, slut, hood, rat, chicken head, and so on. Learn to embrace them. Are they going to be difficult? Yeah, just because you end sexism don't mean you're going to get along with your girl. It just means you ain't got the last word. She could still be jacking you up, and you could still be going, what the hell? And y'all can be arguing, but you do it out of equity. If you change that mindset, man, we would have a transformation and revolution of an entire generation of young kings.
Next question. You are inspiring and engaging, Dr. Dyson. Do you have aspirations to run for office?
I have aspirations to run as far as away from office as I can. Yes, run away from office. I can. I can't, because then I couldn't be honest. Then I have to start lying. Then I got to start hedging the truth. Then I got to start justifying what no. And plus, I don't get to work on time. And then, I'd be up there but the bill be waiting to sign. I'm like, well, where you at? I don't know. The dude, I think he's reading a book or something. I'm reading too much. I'm thinking too much. I'm activizing too much, right? That's a word I'm inventing. But I think it's extremely important for us to support those who do run, those who are in office and who are important. They can't be perfect, y'all. Let's stop asking a litmus test of perfection for those who are running for office. Stop the Kamala Harris hate. Do you despise Kamala Harris more than you hate what you see going on now? I mean, please be honest about that. So no, I could never run for office, because I believe that what I'm doing is what God has called me to do. Be a paid pest and to really act, to be an activist and an intellectual who's trying to raise the consciousness of America as much as I can.
Next question here. Back in the day, we had leaders like MLK, Malcolm X, Reverend Sharpton, and Jesse Jackson that we all rallied around. Why don't we have that single figure today? And what do we need to do to get there?
Well, first of all, we ain't had no single figure. I appreciate your question. I wrote 2 books about Dr. King, the greatest American who ever lived. I'll argue with anybody. Fight me on that. But at the same time, they had John Lewis going on at the same time as Dr. King, Diane Nash, Joanne Robinson, Septa McClark, Ella Baker. There were a lot of people out there who made it possible. Yes, LeBron is the star, but you got AD, you got, Rondo. He used to be the star in Boston, but now he's got them slick passes and he's running the point guard and the point, and they got the pinch post off of the, in other words, there's a lot of people on the team, y'all. Ain't nobody winning the game by themselves. So they're always, and the women just don't get their due. Let's think about it. We talk about the movement for Black Lives Matter right now. The WNBA is smashing the game. They're smashing the game, right? No disrespect to LeBron and Chris Paul, because I love them. I dedicate my next book to LeBron. Don't tell nobody. But the point is that the women have been doing incredible work. Candace Parker out here. They got the places where Jacob Blake was shot. They got him on the T-shirt. Maya Moore set out 2 seasons to make sure that this young man would face justice. Yes, she ended up marrying him, but that's along the way. She was sacrificing because she believed in principles of justice. So I'm telling you, if we would acknowledge what the women have done, they would be a lot more heroic than we have given credit for. So we have rallied around. We have never rallied around just one leader, right? And it's even more difficult now. I mean, with social media, you can't even agree on who's the leader for the day, who's trending, who's out there, who's doing the thing, who said something about Kim Kardashian, who got up. Stop it. So we're so distracted. Can you imagine? It's more difficult to do that now than it was then, but it was even impossible then. We had many different leaders and we had far fewer black people. Now you got more black people with more outlets. They got cable TV. You got what? Well, back in the day, we had 3 TV stations, ABC, CBS, and NBC. Now you got dadgummit, you got Lovecraft County, and you got Black Panther, you got all this stuff that you can watch every day. The option glut and the attention span has been shrunken. It's amazing. We've never had one black leader. We should never have one black leader. We should have multiple black leaders. So don't diss the people now. They're going to look back, trust me, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, back in the day, we had Black Lives Matter, and people were organized with them, and everybody was supporting them. No, they ain't. People were hating on Black Lives Matter, and you ain't going to tell that. People, let me tell you what, and I'll end right here for this question. Roy Wilkins, great man from NAACP, hated King. Don't tell nobody, but he was mad at King. He was like, why is he in the streets doing that disruptive stuff? We are bourgeois Negroes. He didn't say it that way. We are using the courts to fight injustice. King is in the street. King was like, I'm going to be out in these streets because I believe this is where justice is had. And so there were people internally fighting each other. They could hardly get together. Bryant Rustin was gay. Don't tell nobody. But they were trying to use that to blackmail King and them. We going to tell that Bryant Rustin is gay. So what? Bryant Rustin organized the March on Washington. And Adam Clayton Powell, love him. But he said to King, I'm going to blackmail you and say you and Rustin having an affair if you don't go along with what LBJ is doing. They were doing it back then like they doing it now. It was always been hate. There always been haters. There always been mad rappers. They just didn't have a record contract. So just think about what happened then and what happened now is pretty much the same thing.
Next question. Thanks, Doc. That's an incredible answer. In Asian, Jewish, Latinx, and in Latinx communities, they support each other. Would you define our culture as theirs? If no, what needs to change?
Again, you're romanticizing. You talk to Jews and they go, ha, ha, ha. We don't have differences. Oh my God, oy vey. We got Tikkun Allah on the one, we got Tikkun on the one hand and Commonweal on the other. Okay, that's the, that might be the Catholic one. But you got progressive, you got conservative, you got Orthodox, even with the religious Jews. You got people who believe progressively with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then you got David Horowitz. Is he Jewish? I think he is, but I'm not sure. But you got conservative Jewish brothers and sisters out here who are railing against everything, who support Donald Trump. And you would think, given the anti-Semitism of Donald Trump, that the Jews wouldn't be out here. But you would think that Ben Carson, given how he hates black people, I'm talking about Donald Trump, I think, that Ben Carson wouldn't be down with that. But we got people, we got diversity in every community. Latinx? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Puerto Ricans versus Chicanos? Are you kidding? I mean, if you are Cuban versus what if you are Dominican? Stop. There are internal schisms and divisions of every group. But it is true that black people have even more especially and perniciously been divided, the divide and conquer. If you got a law, if 2 Negroes are gathered together, 3 Negroes are gathered together, it's an insurrection. That's deeply entrenched in the culture. And yes, there are some extremely hurtful, painful consequences to dividing us from each other. And we don't love each other the way we should. We are not as unified as we should be. And we don't operate and organize with each other. Look at me when talking about this. We can't even support universally, or at least progressively, Kamala Harris for vice president. Why we got to ask somebody to be perfect? Now, some other communities don't demand perfection. They demand numbers that are diverse. See, our problem is we only got one. When you got more than one, you ain't got to hate, because you can say, I put another one up. I don't like that black person, I put another black person up. But we have been reduced to one. Why does one black movie have to carry the burden? Antebellum just came out yesterday. Well, the problem is it's not a slave movie. The problem is it is a slave movie. The problem is it's not romantically engaged with the possibility of black revolution. The problem is it's too revolutionary. Why one movie got to do everything? Can't one movie be one movie? Can't one HBCU? The problem with Hampton is it's not Morehouse with an all black. It ain't Morehouse. It's Hampton. It's the fake, the real HU. So the thing is that we can't demand everything from everybody every time. That's the kind of permission that's why the cancel culture is problematic to me. Open up, be progressive and open-minded. So that's what I would say in regard to that.
Next question is, what is one thing you would change about our current state that would yield benefits for most everything else?
Well, if you have the fundamental right to have a job, as Dr. King was fighting for at the end, he said, look, getting civil rights legislation passed, that's pretty easy. Well, there was a bloodshed. There were people getting beat down. People died. But you get his point. That's easy for the nation because they don't cost them nothing. Civil rights bill ain't costing you nothing. Voting Rights Act ain't really costing you nothing. Economic justice, oh, that's getting in your pockets. Reparations, oh, that's going to hit you where it hurts. Oh, sharing jobs. Oh, we got to share jobs. Yeah, that hurts. So the fundamental issue is economic parity. If everybody had, and that goes in hand with what? Education. Education and employment. If we could secure those kind of things, I could get my son out my pocket. We could have economic justice in America and things could prevail. Then young people, the reason why he might be in my pocket, because young people can't get no jobs the same way they did 30 and 40 years ago. If we could have employment and education made more, and income rise and wealth become more equitable, we could transform the entire world.
Next question, Dr. Dyson, what are you talking to your children about?
I'm talking to children about the money they owe me. I be giving them these kids these money and they ain't paying me back, man. Okay. What do you talk to children about? Being healthy as you can, loving yourselves as much as you can, studying as hard as you can. Learn more about bank accounts and investments and stocks and bonds. That's important, dog. To individual black kids. See, because when we talk about the difference between black people and, say, Jewish brothers and sisters, and we don't want to get in those stereotypes here, but one way to fight Jews are what, 2 to 3% of the population, but disproportionately overrepresented in some critical areas. And this ain't like Jews run the world. I ain't saying that. I'm saying what they did was brilliantly leverage their opportunities in ways that protected themselves, that we weren't allowed to do because we don't have the potential to be mistaken for white the ways Jewish brothers and sisters do, or change your name from Firestein to Firestone, and therefore we don't know anything about your Jewish identity, right? Nobody should try to mask or hide. I'm talking about the ability to translate into universal terms your belief. But this black skin shows up, it's killing the game. I don't care what our name is. Hi, I'm John Johnson. I went to Johnson University, and I believe in the Johnsonization of the Johnson Society. It don't make no difference. You still a Negro, okay? They see it when you come in, way before you get there. So the thing is, we didn't have that possibility. But what we should do is to teach our kids about the value of leveraging our economic position. And before the radical black comes at me, stop it. Are you working for free? Do you have a job? Do you want money to help your organizations? You keep asking me for support, and you should, for your organizations. Where you think it's coming from? I ain't robbing no banks, right? So the thing is that we got to learn democratizing capital in a progressive, radical, even Marxist sense. Even Karl Marx had a supporter in Friedrich Engels. Stop it. And when the dude came to date his daughter, Gena, he said, what you got? What you got? What you going to do? How you going to take care of her? Right? Even Karl Marx was like, what's up? How you going to take care of my daughter? So in that patriarchal culture. So all I'm saying to you is that we've got to find a way to provide economic opportunity. And young people, get educated, smart as you can. I don't care what nobody says about you. Learn as many words as you can and accumulate enough capital that you become more independent so that you're not dependent on people when times get hard. That would be my suggestion.
We're getting close to about our 10-minute mark here.
We've been joined by wonderful people, too. I don't know, Miss Cierra, Miss Sydney. Are y'all on the next panel, or we just, we have y'all gonna ask questions? What y'all doing over here?
Next panel. I think they're
next panel. Oh, okay. Y'all should jump in here. Save me. You see, I'm struggling over here. What's up with
that? Doc, here's the next question. What has driven you to write so many books and to cover so many different topics?
I got bills. bills. I had to get into the Beyonce early. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm driven by passion. I'm driven by love for my people. I'm driven by trying to get better every time. I'm driven by my commitment. I was 12 years old. Detroit News said 12-year-old boys plea against racism wins award. I've been at this. For all these people trying to snap back on me on Twitter or email. Sorry about that. You know, it's like, oh, what's he doing? Why is he involved? I've been at this. Before you was born, I was doing this. At 12 years old, I was inspired. Right? When Dr. King died, I was like, my God, who is this? Using words to transform the world. I was 9 years old when he was murdered in Memphis. So I've been motivated by my pastor, Dr. Frederick Sampson, by my community in Black Detroit. What's up? I know y'all ain't from Detroit. Y'all mad. I know you're upset. You're from any other state, any other city besides Detroit, but everybody cannot be from Detroit.
Boy.
But I was from there, and it was a black world, and we took it seriously, and we believed in black genius and black excellence, and our black teachers taught us about black possibility. That's why I write books. You know, I say I write books like write hooks. That's what I do. I thought I told you I wasn't going to stop, right? And sorry, Diddy. So the thing is, I try to write and inspire young people. I'm inspired by the young people. When I started, I was on the cover of New Yorker magazine, 1990, I think it was 95, 96, 94, 95. I was on there with Derek Bell and Cornel West and Bell Hooks. Now I'm trying to be on the list with Ibram Kendi and Ta-Nehisi Coates and stuff. I'm still trying to be in the game. I'm still in the game. I tried to tell you, I'm still dropping relevant rap lyrics. That's what I do. So I'm trying to raise my game, try to get smarter, trying to use whatever advantage I have for the benefit of my people. That drives me, the passion to want to change, to want to be better every time out, to write better books, to write better lyrics, so to speak, to write better articles, to engage with young people, learn from them, and then be able to repackage my own, ideas and my own assessments of the world in ways that are appealing to them. That's what drives me, the love of my people, and to want to see black suffering stop.
Yeah. Next question here is, Dr. Dyson, what is your biggest hope for 2021 after the struggle of 2020? And Doc, I wonder if you could reflect a little bit more on your personal experience with 2020, because we've lost so many tremendous people: Coach Thompson, Kobe Bryant, Representative Lewis, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. These are all people that you knew. Many of them you worked with or connected with in different capacities. And so I wonder if you could, what's your biggest hope for 2021? But characterize the struggle personally for yourself in 2020 with all the loss and the tragedy of this year.
Yes, sir. You're more eloquent than I am. I'm going to say this: get Donald Trump's ass out of office. That's my biggest hope, right? Because for those who go, well, hey, you got to do more than that. No, let's start there. Look at what he's done. Look at how he's opened up infinite cavernous reaches and vast expanses of bigotry. I've debated black radical people who thought they were more radical to me. Leave the top of the ballot open. Don't vote for president. And then Negroes start putting in Harambe. Let me tell you something. If you're a young black person and you out here trying to tell somebody you ain't voting, shame on your black behind. This is serious. Donald Trump's presence means it's not just him for president. It's who's the prosecutor. Look at what William Barr has done. William Barr alone is enough reason to vote for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, right? Because of what he's done to the Justice Department. He is denying the legitimacy of dealing with racial sensitivity training in government. Do you hear this? The president is tamping down on the scientific rationality of the CDC. He is affecting and really infecting so much. So while I worked with John Lewis, I interviewed Chadwick Boseman and knew him and knew John Lewis, Kobe Bryant, what a wonderful man, my dear, dear friend, and so many people that you've named who have died, who have gone on, gave their lives, their last breath, heroically devoted to the reorganization of the logic of American democracy. So my hope for 2021 is that we take the baton from our ancestors and move the race forward, literally and metaphorically, that we have the vision and the insight that we've got to be able to change this world. And that's what I hope for 2021, that we will be able to have a new president new respect for science, a new respect for trying to get this disease down. Because I want to watch football games in person too. I want to go to the basketball game too, dadgummit. I want to go. Okay, I want to go back to school too and teach. Yeah, okay, that's it. But the thing is, I'm sorry, I'm a professor. I want to go back to the classroom too. I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't never going back. I dig this. No, I will. I'm on Zoom. Office hours, catch me 1 in 5 on Zoom. No, obviously I want to go back to school. I want to engage my students. I want to feel, there's nothing like feeling the electricity in the room when you're lecturing, or people snoring so loudly that they're bored by what you said. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And then I wake them up, wake up, right? So the thing is that yes, we want all of that. But if you don't understand that Donald Trump has been a lethally malignant narcissist who stands up every morning to excrete the feces of his moral depravity into a nation he has turned into his psychic commode. God dang it, I'm trying to use big words and small words and medium-sized words. God dang it, he is effed up, he has messed this country up, and he done dogged it out. And don't tell me, please, some of these conservative Hamptonians, I'm going to challenge you. Spare me your bourgeois, neoconservative, high culture stance. You need to get this man out of office. This is time for you to appeal to the brilliance of a William Harvey, the appeal to the brilliance of a Booker T. Washington, and stop all of this dribble. And you 1 out of 5 black men who support of college age who support Donald Trump, shame on you. Get off the crack pipe. Put the methamphetamines down and the fentanyl and get up on some political knowledge and stop this bourgeois captivity to black belief that you are somehow exceptional. They will catch your black ass out there and murder you too if you on the wrong side of the street, and the police or your own community will hurt and harm you too. So be cognizant of that as you vote for 2021's beginning of a new order, hopefully politically as well.
Last question here, Doc, and we got to get out of here on this question.
We're going to join Sydney and Cierra, and we're going to stay on with them. Okay.
Doc, how do we combat the anti-black speech from people like Candace Owens?
Here's the thing. You combat that kind of anti-black speech with better black speech. I'm looking forward to listening to Sister Kirkland and Sister Johnson. That's why, look at them. Highly intelligent, obviously gifted, nice different hairstyles. I like that. I like how it's whirling right there. I like that chocolate charm, that ebony ecstasy. I like that caramel cuteness. I like that brilliant black brain, right? Because in black communities, we can acknowledge your brilliance and your beauty and your sensitivity and your passion. Women ain't getting up beating their faces for you not to acknowledge that they're beautiful, but they don't want you to make that the central preoccupation with their consciousness. They want you to celebrate their brains, but we can do both. And so Candace Owens, God bless her, is a gifted black woman to a certain degree, but her gifts are in areas that are problematic to me. So you counter it with listening to Nicole Hannah-Jones, who's far more intelligent, who has the 1619 Project at the New York Times. You listen to Martha Jones, who just wrote a book about the Vanguard and black women who've been involved. You listen to Treva Lindsay. You listen to Brittany Cooper. There are so many black. You listen to Sydney Kirkland and Cierra Johnson and to Linda Malone Colon. You listen to black women out here who are doing things. Now, if their platforms is not bigger or not as big as Candace Owens, then make them as big. Make them as big. It ain't something that Candace Owens ingeniously worked at, but it's easy when you a black woman who 2 years before that was trying to sue people for racism, and you turn around and act like racism doesn't exist. You're hustling. I'm a hustler, baby. When the rim is in the system, ain't no telling where you love them, where you diss them. That's what she be yelling. She's a pimp by blood, not relation. Y'all still case them. She still chase them. Y'all stop that on the Jay-Z tip. Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm a black man who believes in black people. And when we do that, we cancel out that speech. We elevate the speech and rhetoric and insight and intelligence of so many other black people who are doing tremendous things that deserve to be celebrated.
Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, thank you so much for your time, sir. I'm going to turn the program back over to President Pemberton. We appreciate everybody listening and really appreciate all the incredible questions and the engagement. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both for taking the time. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Dyson and Dr. Peterson. Thank you, Dr. Dyson, for keeping it so rizzial, as they say in the streets, I think. They might not say it anymore, but I just showed you my age. So, but he's still rapping. he's unfortunately you're muted, but we missed your whole rap tunes. But thank you so much for the time and for giving us so many things to think about. It really was a great conversation, and thank you again for taking the time on Saturday to join us. Up next, I will bring it up to two young alum or recent alum that are going to be leading us in our next workshop, to Cierra Johnson, class of 19, and Sydney Kirkland. They are taking over for the next while to talk through a workshop about turning your college hustle into a career. So I'd like to welcome my fellow alum of Sydney and Cierra to get us started. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sydney Kirkland. Like was stated, I am a recent grad from Hampton University. I graduated with my undergrad degree in business administration December 2018, and I went on to complete my MBA this past May 2020.
Hello, I am Cierra Johnson. I graduated in 2019, and I just completed my master's degree at Syracuse University a few months ago. So thank you for having us. Sydney, if you want to go ahead and start, and then we can jump on in.
Okay, cool. So we will be doing a presentation called Turning Your College Hustle into a Career. So when I first got to Hampton, of course, I gained the freshman 15. You know, I didn't really like the foods that were in the cafeteria. I ate a lot of pasta, paninis, but everything else in the caf, I would stay away from. So that's what kind of triggered my fitness journey. So sophomore year, I was able to move off campus. Of course, because I moved off campus, I was able to cook for myself and take better care of my health. So as soon as I decided to, make healthier decisions, other people around campus started to notice my weight loss journey and began asking me to help them with their fitness journey. And so that's kind of how I got started. So I started a fitness training business on campus my sophomore year. Sierra, you can talk a little bit what you do.
So I have a public relations agency called Shar Media PR, and I officially started my junior year at Hampton University while attending Scripps. I was actually in class one day filling out my LLC form. But I started because I noticed that in the entertainment industry specifically, there was a lack of Black publicists and Black talent. So when I started, I really didn't have an idea of what exactly I was supposed to do in PR, but I knew that my purpose in life was to help serve people in this aspect. So that's how Shar Media got started. I would say that being at Hampton really did prepare me for entrepreneurship because everybody had a business, whether they were selling clothes, whether they were doing hair, doing makeup, people were cooking. You were surrounded by a diverse array of entrepreneurs. So I would say for me that really inspired me to be my own boss.
And so my brand is the Curly Fit Chick. So like I said, I have that fitness component, but also as soon as I got to college, I decided that I wanted to embrace my natural texture. So I never put heat on my hair. I may, use extensions or stuff like that, but I never changed my natural texture. And so that curiosity with my natural hair and being able to teach other Black women how to care for their hair, and then the fitness component, that's how I came up with the Curly Fit Chick. So basically it's, a social media platform where I teach young Black women and girls how to take care of their hair while living an active lifestyle. Since creating my brand, I've worked with some phenomenal companies. I've been sponsored by Shea Moisture. I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they are a natural hair company. And I also have a current partnership with Fabletics. So they will send me all of my outfits for my photo shoots, so I can go ahead and document my videos for social media. And in return, I'll just post it. So it's kind of a win-win for me because I need workout clothes as my profession anyway. So then entrepreneurship after Hampton. So when I was in my I was in a 5-year MBA program. So during my 5th year, I was really struggling with what I wanted to do post grad. I knew I didn't want to work at any of the companies that were presented to me at Hampton via the Career Center. So I was really struggling with finding my own path. One of my friends actually suggested that I just continue working on my brand full time. And at first I was a little scared. I didn't think that I could do it. But, May 2020 came, didn't have any offers, and I just decided to go for it. And since going for it, it has been, one of the best decisions that I have ever made. I'm making more money than I would have at a company in corporate America starting off entry level. So I'm doing pretty well for myself, and I can't wait to see how it continues to grow and expand.
So entrepreneurship after Hampton has been an interesting ride for me, especially in the midst of the pandemic that we are in. I have seen a decline in business, but since I work with entertainers and social justice advocates, I've also seen a rise in business, just considering the current climate that our country is in. So some statistics that I found was that 34% of African American entrepreneurs stated that they started their business because they wanted to be their own boss. And for me, I can truly attest to that. I have had a ton of internships. I've had a ton of experiences working in journalism and communications. And I had never really had an experience where I felt like my boss really understood me as a young Black, at that time in college, but now college grad. And I would also say that entrepreneurship at Hampton has been great because we have Facebook groups and everything with all the Hampton alum that we can connect with. So that's another point that I would add.
I know Cierra said that she saw a decline, but with a lot of the gyms being closed, I saw an increase in my clientele because I do everything virtually. So I have access to more people throughout the United States because when I was at Hampton, I was only training Hampton students. So it definitely, the pandemic has definitely been a blessing in disguise.
And Sydney's actually my trainer. So
I am.
Hit her up.
And Cierra brought up a good point about, how many different networks you can tap into at Hampton, so the different support groups. So one thing that I would want to tell college students that are interested in doing entrepreneurship, make sure that you're reaching out to people. I know Cierra and I crossed paths because we were both in the Greer Dawson Wilson Student Leadership Program. So, you never know who will be able to support your business in the future. So make sure that you're doing everything you can to put your face out there and also make those connections. So how did Hampton prepare us? So being that I was a business major, it really gave me enough information to start my business so I wasn't completely blind to everything. So I know how to do the accounting, to keep track of, payments and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest way that it prepared me was, those relationships. Most of my clientele are from Hampton, and just most of the people that I serve right now, they're just people that I knew, at some point in my life. Cierra, do you have anything to add on that?
No, not in particular. I would say some tips that I got from being a student at Hampton and starting my business while I was actually a student was just to go ahead and start. If you have a business that you're thinking about, don't feel like you have to wait until you have your degree or wait until, you get everything together and all your money's right. Now, depending on what type of business you start, you're going to need some money to start. But I would say just start. Just do it. Shoot your shot and shoot it now. Also reach out to people in the profession that you want to go into that you know are similar to you, whether it's the same business or they have similar characteristics that you want to exude. I would also say reach out to those people immediately. Another thing, starting off, you're going to have to do some things pro bono. It's just the way that it goes in entrepreneurship, especially as young entrepreneurs just starting off. So I would say just get comfortable with doing things pro bono. Also, you have to get comfortable with failing early and failing often. Everything's not going to go smooth. Everything's not going to be perfect when you're starting off. So get really comfortable with that. That's one thing that I embrace every day. Just like, okay, this might not go the way I want it to go, but at the end of the day, I know I'm going to learn from this situation. Also, the last thing I would say is to do business the right way. If you know that you need to get your LLC, go ahead and get that. If you know that there's a proper way that you need to be handling your books and your money, go ahead and do that. Make sure you file your taxes so everything could be good to go. So while I was at Hampton, I took entrepreneurship, and I think I'm not sure if that's a required course for everybody, but I know it was required for my program. And I learned a ton in there just from the way that there are different corporations, the way that you're supposed to conduct business. I would say if you have the opportunity to take entrepreneurship, I would definitely recommend that.
Yes. Okay. So, in case any of you guys are wondering, we are on social media. So I'm on Instagram. My handle is the Curly Fit Chick. So THE, the Curly, CURLY, Fit, FIT, Chick, CHICK. And then
I'm on Instagram as well at Cierra, CIERRAC.PR. And my PR agency is Char Media PR on Instagram.
So we had a question that was asked, and it said, what was done to make money so quickly? So I'm going to go back to Sierra's point of just starting. I have been growing my brand since 2017. So from 2017 to 2020, I had a good amount of people following me on social media. A lot of people on campus knew about me. Like I said, I had been training. By the time I graduated, I had 2 years of training experience. So by the time, the pandemic hit, I already had my credibility. So people were looking for an at-home virtual trainer. Because I had been working on my brand for 3 years, I was somebody that came to mind. So definitely work on your brand as soon as possible, because you never know what opportunities may come up.
And while we wait for another question, if there is one, to piggyback off of Sydney's point, as an entrepreneur, you have to get comfortable with changing your prices as often as you need to. I think as Black people and as women specifically, we get a little hesitant when asking for money. But if you know that you're providing a service or a product that's quality, that is unique, and that people can't get from anywhere else, and you have the credentials to back it up, you have to get comfortable with changing your prices when you need to. And people have to be okay with that. If people aren't okay with that, then the right business will come to you.
So I had a question about, tips about getting started with your fitness journey. So usually when I take on a client, I'll set up a consultation. I'll ask them about, what they're doing now, so I can kind of figure out, what things they may be struggling with that may be hindering them from their weight loss journey or their weight gain journey, depending on their goal. Then I also have people write 10 reasons why they want to get in shape. Those 10 reasons are crucial. Okay, so I tell people that it can't be anything superficial like I want a nice body or I want my butt to be bigger. It has to be something deeper that's going to root you. For example, my motivation for getting started was not only that I was unhappy with the way that I looked and how I felt just moving around and just being tired going up and down the stairs, but it was deeper than that. So my mother has a chronic illness. She has high blood pressure. So I wanted to work on myself so I can influence her to take better care of herself. So think of 10 reasons why you want to get in shape. and that'll definitely help keep you motivated. Beyond that, the motivation is what gets you started, but discipline is what keeps you, on track for your goals. So I would definitely say get an accountability partner. So if you don't have a friend that wants to work out with you, I'm available. I can be your virtual personal trainer. And yeah, so motivation, figure out those 10 reasons why you want to get in shape, and then have someone that's going to help you with your discipline, someone that's going to call you out, when you can be going a little bit harder in the workouts, or checking up on you as far as your cardio and your eating routine.
So I see a question about how we pay it forward. Do we mentor young girls? I actually do mentor young girls, whether they want to get into entrepreneurship or if there's any other aspect of my life that they're interested in me giving tips on. Another way I pay it forward is by providing services to young people that I know may not have the budget at the time. But if there's any way that I can help out, or any way that I'm able to help elevate someone else's brand, I typically tend to do that, especially for young Black people that are just now getting started. So yes, I do mentor people. I do a ton of community service, and I also give back by doing some of my services pro bono. Not all the time, but sometimes. Just to touch back on COVID and how it's affected business. I have seen a decline in business, but I've also seen an increase in the demand for business at the same time, which can be a little confusing. But being that I work with activists, entertainers, and social justice advocates, I have seen, with the increase of Black Lives Matter and things like that, I have seen an increase because my services are needed, because their demand is higher. So one way that I've also adjusted is just by realizing that this is just a season. Like, we're not going to be in this forever. At some point, things are going to pick back up. We're going to be able to have events again, and red carpets and all types of premieres and things like that. So that's another way that I've adjusted. And also doing virtual events, just putting my clients out there to do as many virtual events as possible, making sure that they have opportunities and that people know who they are, because as a publicist, your job is to make sure that people, the public, are aware of your client and the services that they offer.
Also touching back on COVID, I would say COVID kind of changed my professional goals a little bit. I've always wanted to have my own gym, but seeing as though every time I got sick, it was because I was going to the gym and I wasn't wiping down the equipment. So being that gyms are a bacteria hub where you can easily catch different sicknesses, I don't know if I still want to have that gym. So, and I see how the fitness world is moving anyway. Everything is going online, and for example, Peloton, and then the virtual training. If alum want to help my business thrive, they can sign up for my virtual training classes. So right now I'm still working on my website, but if you shoot me a DM through my Instagram, I will definitely get back as quickly as possible.
A few ways that alum can help my business thrive is by spreading the word. If you know somebody that needs PR services, brand management, social media management, all of the above, I got you. I also do websites. I do an array of things. So that's one way that you can support my business. But if you know that you need these services for yourself, feel free to reach out. And then another thing is sharing the information on social media. With the algorithms and things like that, a lot of stuff get hidden. So the more things that people are sharing, the more people are going to see. Another question, what advice do you give to people trying to juggle life and being an entrepreneur? I would say, to be honest, I don't think that juggle is possible. I think instead you have to kind of find a rhythm on what works. For me, I work on my business all day, every day. I treat it like a 9 to 5. Some days you're going to work later, just like you would do at your typical 9 to 5. Some days you're going to have to get up earlier. Some days you need to take self-care days and not do as much work. So I would say realize that in the beginning, you're going to have to put in a ton of work until you get to a place where your business can kind of ride itself out. So for me, I haven't been able to find a good balance because I'm always working. If I'm in the car, I'm on my phone, on my iPad. I'm always checking my email, sending stuff out to my clients, pitching things for my clients. So I would say it really depends on what type of business you're in, what type of sector you're focusing in. But that's my take on it. Sydney, do you have anything?
I would definitely agree with you. I'm struggling still with, my time management, just trying to do everything at once. So I have a morning routine that I'm trying to implement and a nighttime routine. I haven't been consistent with my morning and nighttime routine yet, but it is definitely a struggle to juggle life and entrepreneurship. I would definitely say that my entrepreneurship or my brand, it takes up a majority of my time. So I'm going to go back to the question that said, how are you paying it forward? Do you mentor any young girls? So I currently don't have any young girls that I mentor right now, but I'm hoping that my YouTube channel becomes an opportunity to mentor young girls. So like I said, my brand is the Curly Fit Chick. So on that channel, you can see a lot of hair tutorials and fitness tutorials, but I didn't want it to be a superficial brand. So I'm going to be talking about, my dating experience and just hoping to give back to young girls and become like the big sister that I've always wished that I've had. So that's what I would say I'm striving for as far as mentorship. I don't have anyone that I'm mentoring personally right now.
Another question, when starting your business, do you develop a business plan? If so, did professors provide support or advice with helping you develop your business? So for me, I did develop a business plan, and it's ever changing. I think that's just the industry that I'm in. But I did not have any help from professors, and that's not because they weren't willing to help. I just didn't reach out. I found things on the internet. I went to my other friends and family members that already had businesses and asked them, does this look right? Can you assist me? So I'm sure that professors are willing to help. I just personally didn't have that experience.
So as a business major, of course, I created a business plan. And so my business plan was for the gym that I had aspired to own one day. I would say that my entrepreneurship teacher, Dr. Jones, was tremendous help. I can definitely still reach out to him regarding any business questions that I have. But yeah, my professors were very supportive of, my decision to follow my entrepreneurship goals.
So I see, as young alums, are you encouraging young people to vote? How are you reaching out? So my Instagram has turned into a voting hub. I actually have a campaign called But First Vote, and I just launched t-shirts yesterday. So if you're interested, you can hop over to my website, sharmediapr.com, and purchase those. But I also work with Angela Rye, who is a CNN political commentator and advocate. And our work every day is encouraging people to vote. So whether it is texting some of my friends and family, hey, are you registered to vote? If not, here's the link. Or if it's posting a graphic to let people know today your states are supposed to go vote. This is voter fraud. This is things that are illegal, things that are legal. These are things that you should be looking out for. So I am encouraging people to vote. I think that this election is vote or die at this point. Like, we don't have a choice. Either you vote or our democracy is at jeopardy. So I am encouraging people to vote on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. If you want to get involved with voting, or you want to get involved with making sure that people are voting, hit me up and we can talk about that in further detail.
Nice. I would say I'm not doing anything to the extent of what Cierra is doing. I probably could be doing more to encourage young voters to vote, but yeah, that's all I have on that. I could definitely be doing more. I thought it was understood that everybody should be voting, but yeah.
Are we involved in our local chapter? I am involved to an extent. I'm not as involved as I should be. I can definitely be more involved, but I attend the summer cookouts that we had pre-COVID. I am in the Facebook group, and that's the extent of my involvement. And then someone also wanted to know what cities we're located in. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So I definitely could be doing more as far as my local chapter. But I do go to the summer cookouts. I definitely should be more involved because the alum chapter has definitely helped me with my college experience because, you know, I benefited from a scholarship. So I definitely should be doing my part to give back to college students. I'm located in Frederick, Maryland. It's about 40 minutes outside of DC and 40 minutes outside of Baltimore.
How are we giving back to Hampton? Well, for me, one of my clients is a Hampton student, so I give back by mentoring Hampton students. I haven't donated yet. Good, I just haven't. I'm a recent grad, trying to make it out here as a young entrepreneur. But I definitely do think as my income grows, I will be in a position to give back on a more consistent basis. So those are the ways that I give back, by having clients and students that are still at Hampton that I talk to and mentor, and then monetarily.
This is another thing that I could, you know, definitely be doing more. I do have some younger students that I keep in touch with, but I don't give any money yet, and I do have a couple clients that still attend Hampton, but that is the extent of my giving back. Could definitely be doing more.
Oh, this is a great question. How do you choose your clients? I am a big proponent of a good client business owner relationship. So I choose clients who, one, have a budget. Because for me, people ask, how do I know when I need PR? One, when you have something that people are interested in, and two, when you have a budget. So that's the first thing that I look at. Second, I tend to work with Black entrepreneurs, Black talent, Black brands. So that's another key component. I also look for someone who is not expecting me as a publicist to do all of the work. So people tend to get PR and advertising confused, and advertising is guaranteed because it's something that you pay for. You pay for a billboard, you pay for a commercial, you pay a campaign, whereas PR is more earned media. It requires more pitching. It requires more people to get to know your brand, so it's not guaranteed at all. While some of my clients have been seen on CNN, Good Morning America, Cosmopolitan, Teen Vogue, none of that stuff is guaranteed. So I look for someone who is willing to do the work with me and know that I'm here to work with you and not for you. Someone who has business goals, who knows where they want to take their business. If you're just out here like, I don't really know what I want to do, but I need a publicist, I'm probably not the best person for you because I need something to work with. So that's how I choose my clients.
As far as my clients, like I said, I try to go with people that can think of other reasons why they want to get in shape besides like the superficial reasons. So if you can't, if your health isn't a priority and you can't think of 10 reasons based on how much your health would have improved by working out, we're probably not, you know, a match made in heaven. I would also say attitude and energy. So when I'm doing my consultation, like if I just get a bad vibe or just, I don't know, I can tell that you really don't want to do it. You know that you should be doing it. May not go with you. But I try not to be, I'm in a tough business, so I can't really be that strict with, you know, who I work with because everyone needs help.
So another question, what social media platform is most beneficial to your business? I would say right now, probably Instagram, because you have the stories, people can share your stuff to their stories, people can send stuff to other people. and just being in communications, PR, content creation. Instagram is a lot more active for that. But I would say when I need the support from like my aunties and my cousins, I go to Facebook. So it depends on what I have going on, what I'm needing at the moment. So for me, Instagram has been the most beneficial. What do you think your business would be without social media? Probably non-existent, because that's how our generation communicates. It's probably not the best thing, but that's just the way that it is. And so for me, a lot of my clients or a lot of business that I've been able to receive is from people on social media, being able to see, okay, this is the results that she can produce. This is the work that she's done. Also, people on Instagram hype you up so much. They comment, share your stuff. So I don't think my business would be as successful as it is without social media.
I also use Instagram. Instagram has been my biggest platform. That's how a lot of the companies that have reached out to me have found me. That's also how my clients find me as well. I do use Facebook, but not so much, because my target market is young adults. So like Cierra say, like my older relatives and, older people are usually on Facebook. Facebook is usually for that purpose, just keeping in touch with your family and older generation. I agree. I believe that my business would be non-existent without Instagram. And yeah, that's all I have for that.
So I think that is the end of our session. Thank you guys so much for having us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your questions. And we hope to stay connected with everyone that is watching.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sydney and Cierra, for taking the time today to share with us how you've made your side hustle into your main hustle. Much success to you both. I followed you. I'm on Instagram, even though I'm old, and I'm also on Facebook. But I did make sure I followed you, so I'm gonna make sure I ask all of those alum that are watching to support you both as well. So thanks again for taking the time. And make sure you join your local chapter for real, though, and figure out how you can give back more to Hampton when as we know, we all need it. So thank you again for taking time here. So now, everybody, I'm going to take a few minutes to answer any questions that I think I've heard that might be out there for NHAA while we transition to the next speaker. So let me know if there are any questions and send those to the email. Again, the Biennial 2020 at NHAAinc.org. And then also remember to subscribe to our channel. Also make sure that you register via the NHAA link. That'll get you connected to a local chapter if you don't know who your chapter is, so that you can be able to connect to them. We'll make sure that the chapters get in contact with those people that don't know. One of the things that I want to make sure I cover off on here is that we're really excited that this virtual biennial has been able to continue to take place, even though we are no longer able to meet face to face. We are practicing as a board to do a lot more things virtually as we continue to move through this pandemic, because we know that it is definitely impactful, and it's important for us to think about what people, to keep people safe, those people on our board, as well as alum that might be attending events. So really happy that people have taken the time to join us virtually, and that we were able to put on something so fantastic. I'll take this time to again express my thank you and huge gratitude to what we're now calling the media team of the NHAA, and that includes April Broadway, who also serves as our parliamentarian on the board, but is the co-chair of the Biennial So thank you to April for all of the time and commitment to putting these 2 days together. And then her co-chair, as they call each other, sister co-chairs, Carol Bell Drew, who is the immediate past recording secretary from the board and is also the other co-chair for the biennial. So thank you as well, Carol, for being obviously working with April and putting together these 2 days. And then finally, I'd like to give an additional shout out for the man of the hour behind the scenes. He's our wizard, to Kai Henry, who serves as the technology co-chair on the board and who has put together this YouTube live and the template and the way that we've been producing the program. So all of that is him and his fanciness putting this together. Even the jazz tunes you hear in the beginning are via Kai. I think I have some questions that have come in or things that I just want to make sure I covered off on. I don't think that so far this morning we've heard some great information. I think what Dr. Dyson focused in on about voting is very important. Obviously, we know that to vote is a gift. And I think that we just need to make sure that everyone is going out there and voting. And so, from NHAA, we are poised and planning to make sure that we continue to push the need to vote out to our alum and to our listings. We are looking to host the Get Out the Vote panel that'll be coming through here on our YouTube channel. So you might want to make sure you subscribe so that you can be a part of it, where we're going to bring in some alum that are active on the political scene and be able to provide us with a bipartisan view, as well as what we can be doing to further get out the vote. That's being led by our Vice President, Lainey Shaw. So looking forward to that occurring. And then also, we're planning to host some industry panels that are going to be happening. And so I think I posted out on Facebook looking for any alum that are in the entertainment or media industry at the C-suite, so that we can have them come and talk and share their knowledge. We are looking to work with the Career Center so that we can have students in the audience as well, so that they can get a chance to hear from alum. The next, I see a question has come up for me. Given the challenges we are all navigating, what is the highest priority you need chapter presidents or leadership to address over the 2020-2021 final year of fiscal year? So I think the highest priority is really about supporting each other and making sure that we're doing what we can to provide alum or future students or current students with the support of our community. I think that's what is the best about the Alumni Association. Anything that we can be able to drive that will ensure that we're going to continue growing as an organization, as well as being able to support those that are currently in school, will be important. So I think, one of my main goals that I shared last week was around development of an alum and student mentor program. So we are planning to work on that. I think the other thing, if I can have another priority, I would say the other thing is around us continuing to give back to the university and to help us build to the university, as well as helping us build that student emergency fund. I think that all the funds that we have coming in for that is also going to be very important for us to be able to give back to students as they may need it. So I think any fundraising as it relates to building up some of those funds and giving back to the university is important. And just in case you didn't know, if you give to the Student in Need Fund that NHAA is hosting, it's it does, we do pass that giving back to the university. And so you do get credit for that as a donation through the school. I think that, I'll just reiterate the key call outs that I had at the end of the meeting last week. And those were around, getting involved, with the chapter if you're not already a part of the chapter. Also, going back and reaching back to your school or department and letting them know if you're available to maybe speak with students or provide any guidance to support the professors, I think is important. And then finally, I'd also say the last piece is around if you work at a company that is recruiting, especially in this day and age where everyone is very focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think it's important that we start pushing as Hampton alumni to have companies recruit from our school and bring in students for internships or full-time opportunities. So I would say, make sure that you're speaking up on behalf of the school to bring in that talent. And I'm sure that if you reach out to the Career Center, they'll be very happy to talk to you about what students are available or can be, great candidates for any positions that you have. The other thing I wanted to just say is, I couldn't applaud those young alumni anymore for coming up and being a panelist on our biennial. We wanted to make sure that we had some programming that was for each kind of generation group of alum. And so really proud to have our young alumni co-chairs help us develop that segment. Our co-chairs are Cierra and Jordan, both recent alumni that sit on the board and work with us to make sure that we hear the voice of young alumni. So very happy to have that panel. And our next one that is going to be coming up shortly is a financial planning workshop that we're hoping will be beneficial for our emeritus class or any of our more seasoned alumni that would be needing to get a little bit more knowledge on what they need to be doing as they are building out and planning for the future. We are now really excited to get started into our next workshop, our financial planning workshop with William A. Simkins III. He is a trusted wealth advisor and president of Velvet Suite Financial LLC. He has over 20 years of proven performance in comprehensive financial services, including retirement, business planning, life insurance, and employee benefits. His practice uniquely serves high net worth individuals as well as small to mid-sized businesses with a concentration in qualified and non-qualified retirement plans. I won't go on and talk about everything about Will. I do want to point out that he is also a fellow HBCU grad. He graduated from Morehouse College in 1995 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science, and he was a student athlete and scholar as he played basketball there as well. He is married and has 4 sons, and he coaches youth and high school basketball and is a member of Grace Covenant Church in Chantilly, Virginia. I'm going to pass the mic, as they say, to Will. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us on this glorious Saturday.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Gena.
Yep.
All right. Well, family, thank you so much for the opportunity for a few minutes here on this beautiful Saturday here in DC. At least that's where we are. So as we wait for the slides to pop up, I just wanted to highlight 4 different groups of individuals if they're hanging with us this afternoon to really concentrate on the presentation and maybe take some notes. So number 1 would be anyone that is retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. Very important to take some notes, or if you know someone that is. You've left a job here recently or have outstanding rollovers or buckets sitting in, various companies. Number three, I would say if you're a business owner or if you have a equity interest in a business. And then lastly, even if you're just getting started, So if you can take a few notes as we move through, I think it'd be very, very valuable. Okay. So the presentation, we're going to have some fun with it. So we're going to start out with some fun facts, and then we'll really move into the emotional side of money, and then speak about some practical applications of managing our expenses, and then we'll move into how money works as it relates to it growing over time. So I call this presentation the secret to money maximization. So let's go ahead to slide number 2, Kai. All right, so this is a really fun slide. But let's start with the top left, just to kind of frame our thinking when we think about money and really the classification of those that have it. So affluent means that your liquid net worth, so liquid net worth meaning how much money you can turn into cash quickly, is between $100,000 and $1 million. So that's the definition of a affluent household or person. High net worth, we hear that a lot when we turn on the television. What does high net worth really mean? So that's between $1 million and $5 million in cash or investable assets. Very high net worth, between $5 million and $30 million. Another fun fact, the state of New York has 393,000 high net worth individuals. So when we think about that and compared to the entire country, they have almost 10% of the very high net worth people living in New York. Ultra high net worth is between 30 million and $1 billion, or 9999 million. In New York, again, 8,865,000 live in New York. So that's 0.003 in the entire world. Ultra high net worth folks live in the state of New York, and then you have 1 billion plus. Here recently, there's been an exodus from New York, from the very high net worth and ultra high net worth. You've probably seen articles on that, because as this slide was pre-COVID or going right into COVID. So there's been some shifts in location of very high net worth and ultra high net worth folks. So fun fact, 65% of ultra high net worth individuals are self-made. We're going to come back to that here. Self-made typically means they either started their own company or had an equity interest in a company that went public. Next, fun fact, ultra high net worth individuals have on an average of 8 cars, according to Rolls-Royce. Of course, that's Rolls-Royce's market, so you know they're tracking it. 3 out of 4 ultra high net worth individuals own a jet. Pretty interesting. And 22% of ultra high net worth individuals built their wealth in finance, insurance, banking, or investments. So again, pretty interesting. Household income ranges. We hear about this all the time in the newspapers or in the news. So let's really define what the income ranges are in this country, because we're going to refer back to it in the presentation. Less than $20,000 a year, there's 19 million people or households in this country that are below or near poverty level. 20 to 44,000, that's 28 million. That's considered low income. 45,000 to 139, that's the biggest block. It's 57 million. So that's considered our middle class. 140 to 149 is 2.6. That's upper middle class. 150 to 199 is 9 million is high income, and 200,000 plus is 9.9 million. That is our highest tax bracket. Now, I put a caveat on the income level definition in terms of your demographics and where you live. It costs a touch more to for a household to function in a larger metropolitan city than it does that someplace that's more rural. So we have to see how many in goods you can buy for the dollar based on your demographic area location. And then we look at, when the high net worth individuals in terms of their split, their diversification, 55% of it is in stocks. We have 21% in bonds, 15 in cash, 6 in alternatives, and 3 in other. The chart at the bottom, we're going to come back to that one because that's very, very interesting, because you'll be able to see what the ultra high net worth folks do with their money, especially in times like this. That's always a question I get is, hey, well, what are the, really rich people, what are they doing with their money compared to everybody else? So we're going to come back to this chart at the end of the presentation. But I just want you to look at where the green is on this presentation and where the blue is, because we'll come back to that. But just look at where the green is and where the blue is, and then we'll frame it later on in the presentation. All right, Kai, next slide. Okay, so let's talk about the thought process behind it, behavioral science. Slide 4. So number 1 is something called the gambler's fallacy. We've all been to a casino. We've seen somebody playing craps, and they think that they're on a roll. We hear that all the time. They're on a roll, and that's what they call the gambler's fallacy. And basically, it's the belief that one event will affect the outcome of a future event, when in reality, the two events are independent. So I'm on a roll. You hear that all the time, and that's why they call it the gambler's fallacy. Next slide. Anchoring. This is one, that's really prevalent. This is a bias in which the use of psychological benchmarks carries a disproportionately high weight in decision-making process. So my coworker said they only pay X, or my coworker said that they bought Facebook at $100 and sold it for $300, or the vice versa. Or my dad or my mother told me to invest in X or Y or Z, so many times we'll have certain statements or experience that'll anchor themselves, in our psyche, and then we have a bias towards making our decisions. Next slide. Overconfidence, illusion of control, planning fallacy. These are, again, all areas that really calls us to make decisions or not make a decision as it relates to our money. But one thing that we need to understand is that even if we don't make a decision, if we don't move, that actually still is a decision. So these are 3 other ways that, we really address how we move with our money. Now, next slide, Kai. Now, as it relates to will, and my philosophy with my clients, I have an underlying theme, is that the more conservative you are, the more aggressive you can be. So again, the more conservative you are, the more aggressive you can be. And we're going to get to the last slide where I really will drive this home. I know it takes 2, it's kind of bioptic in its definition, but it can be applied, pretty easily. All right, next slide. So number 1, what does being conservative mean? Conservative means cash. It means having what we call a cash reserve. Pay yourself first. So most financial experts end up suggesting you need a cash stash of at least 6 months of expenses. Some even go as much as 8 months because, that's how long it takes you to find a job. A cash reserve keeps you from using credit or somebody else's money in order to either live or to make a purchase or an expense. So you can use your own money, being your own bank, opposed to using somebody else's money, because when you use your credit card company's money, then that comes with interest. You have to pay them to use their money. So a cash reserve, pay yourself first. Next slide. So 10 warning signs. I'm going to blow through this relatively quickly. So 10 warning signs that that we may not have enough cash on hand. Is we're making minimum payments on each bill, or we're missing payments, or we're getting telephone calls, or borrowing money from retirement accounts. These are all warning signs, that perhaps we're overspending and we're using somebody else's money more than our own money to meet our obligations. Next slide. So how do you avoid that? Is that you create a budget. Again, not going to really dive into to this slide, but there's a personal or household budget, but there's also budgets that even as a business owner that you use to operate your business. Next slide. So there's 6 simple steps into making a budget. You see those there, but really the most important thing that you can do first is gather every financial statement that you can. I know it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful to do it, but sometimes you got to look in the mirror. We walk around just like the old fable with the king that walks around with no clothes on, and nobody ever tells him that he doesn't have any clothes on. And then eventually he does get in front of the mirror and realize he has no clothes on. So the key here is we don't want you walking around with no clothes on. So you got to, pull those financial statements and see exactly where you are, so that way you can make a decision to move forward. Next slide. So there's a few ways that we can eliminate, the liabilities. So let me touch on this quickly, is that if we have debt repayment that's taking place, and let's say we have a credit card that we're paying 19.99% on that credit card, but you have a 401k that's earning 10%, which is quite competitive, by the way. If you have a 401k that's earning 10%, but we have $10,000, debt, to Visa at 19.99. Well, even if we're making 10% on our 401k, we're paying 19% on our Visa. So each month, are we making money or losing money? Well, we're losing money because the difference or the arbitrage between the two is not for our benefit. It's to Visa's benefit, right? So debt repayment is really important. So what the avalanche or ladder method does, it tells us that we need to pay off the highest debt first, the highest interest debt first, and then we work ourselves backwards down. So you pay off that 19.99 and you work ourselves down to the 15, to maybe the 10 or the 8 and then the 3. So you are laddering yourself down. Next slide. The next one is the snowball method. Psychologically, this is the one that folks really like because you start with your smallest liability, pay that off, and work yourself up to the biggest liability. So people like that, because you take the same money that you were using to pay the smallest liability and you throw it into the liability that comes right after it. You build a bigger and bigger and bigger snowball, and then eventually you're able to pay off the largest debt. So psychologically, that feels good because that means you have less paper coming in the mail. You don't have as many emails coming saying that you owe us money because you're paying it off, right? The snowball method. So next slide. So this is the S&P 500. Let's play offense. Those slides that we just had were all defensive conversations, but you always have to have them, especially for those that are just getting started, in their financial lives. Be very wary of debt, especially if you just graduated. I know this is an alumni call. If you just graduated, student loan, debt or liability is horrible. So you just have to be really conscious and aware of where your money is going, if you just graduated and you have student loan debt. And those that are getting ready to retire in the next 5 to 10 years is how are you positioning yourself where your assets, any interest that's being earned on your assets comes to you, and that interest does not go to pay a debt or a liability. Okay, so this is the S&P 500. This is an offensive slide. So if you look at 1996 through roughly year 2000, we had 106% growth. You kind of think about what's going on during that time. Clinton was our president. This is a non-political conversation too, family. So I will, use who's in office, as an example, because it kind of, again, we're anchored, into what happened during those times. So Clinton was in the office then. The .com era had just started. The internet was just getting popular. And then all of a sudden it's year 2000. Year 2000, AOL, Yahoo, and many other companies were going public and had no profits, right? They weren't profitable at all. So people were betting on these companies being profitable. And then all of a sudden, when people realized that these companies were not profitable, and then there was some scandal, Enron, MCI, Anderson, they were cooking the books. Remember that? And then the market fell. So now we're in 2002, roughly. Folks that thought they were going to retire in year 2000 realized they have to work another 10 years to make all their money back. Again, you have to be really careful if you're in that 5 to 10 year period. So year 2000, and then this is where the real estate boom took place. This is when you could go out and buy a mortgage or buy a home and with no money down or no documents. And they were just lending without any collateral or any income. And we saw the stock market go up 100 points, 101, made up almost all of the gains that were lost, between 96 and 2000. And then all of a sudden, boom, it went again. The market crashed. And that's where we saw the massive foreclosures. We were coming in and coming out of a war in the Middle East. And then in 2008, that's when Obama came into the office, and eventually we started going on to a economic recovery. Technology really started to take off, and then we went into a 400% bull run. So between early 2008 all the way into where we are today, and this is slide is through June of 2020. So this includes some of the COVID. We're up roughly around 380%. So when you look at, and this is the S&P, this is a tracking of the stock market. Kind of think about how you felt during these times and take into account of where you feel right now today. Now, if this slide was a little bit longer, where do you think that the S&P is going to be in another 5 to 10 years? Based on what you see here, what do you think this S&P is going to do in another 5 to 10 years? So kind of, again, think about that in the back of your head as it relates to where you're going to be, where your family is going to be, where 5 to 10 years frames you for your dreams, goals, and aspirations. Okay, next slide. Now, we're not going to look at the top portion of this slide. I just want you to pay attention to the 20-year annualized returns by asset class. See at the bottom there, it says REITs. REITs is a real estate investment trust. So that's real estate. Over the last 20 years, at least through 2019, real estate was up 11.6%. Gold was up 8.6%. The S&P 6.1%. Normal 60-40 stock bond portfolio 5.6%. A 40-60 stock bond 5.4%. Bonds by themselves 5%. Oil 4.2%. The EFI, that's international index, 3.8%. Real estate 3.4%. Inflation was 2.2%. So here we go, family. Look at the orange. The average investor was 1.9%. Why do we think the average investor was 1.9%? Well, I'm going to explain why. So just really quickly, Kai, if you can go back to slide 14. Thank you, sir. So the average investor invests emotionally. So the average investor, when the market was going down, they were losing their assets. Thus, that's when they sold, and they remained in cash when the market was recovering. So for example, when the market started going down in 2000, they sold somewhere in 2001 and didn't buy back in, until perhaps, 2006. Well, by then they had missed like 80% of the gain. And then maybe they were back in, and then the market fell, and then they sold in 08 because they thought it was still going to go down. And then maybe they waited until 2012 or 13 to buy back in. Well, by then they missed out on 200% of the growth. Okay, which is why, if we look at slide 15 again, Kai, the average investor is at 1.9%. Emotions, making a decision based on emotions, especially when it comes down to our money, is the worst thing that we can do. So slide 16, let's talk about that here briefly. And I'm going to speed it up here. Okay. So this is the emotions of the stock market. So when we first go to the left, all the way to the left, when we first invest, we feel great. We're excited. The market's going up. The thrill of just making money while you're sleeping. At the top of it, we're feeling awesome. It's like, you know what? I'm going to retire at a really young age. This is great. And then all of a sudden, the market starts to correct maybe a little bit. We get anxiety, denial. We don't even look at it. Now we're afraid. We get desperate. We're panicking, and then all of a sudden we become despondent. We're upset. And then boom, that's when we sell. We sell. So again, we looked at that when we saw the S&P 500. So we're depressed. Then we're like, you know what? It looks like it's coming back up. So we have a little bit of hope. We feel better that the market is going up, and then we're right back where we started out before, which is we were optimistic. But are we in the market at that time, or did we sell? Okay, those are the emotions of the stock market, and you have to be very, very aware, because they'll push us into that 1.9% that we looked at. The average investor, was realizing. So slide 17, Kai. Slide 17 shows that. So think about it. Those of us that were alive and conscious in 1982, that's when we were having issues with Russia in 1982, Cold War. The Dow Jones was at 860. 10 years later, it was 3369. $1,000 would have turned into 3,914, quadrupling 10 times. That's how the rich keep getting richer. Next slide, 18. Yep. November 10th, 1986. Dow Jones at 18, 10 years later at 62, tripling in 10 years. Next one. 1987, same thing, right? 2000, 7,400, tripling in another 10 years. Okay, so we have to be careful of looking at what the media gives us and making emotional decisions based on that, because that's an emotional. We make emotional decisions. Thus, that's how we get that 1.9%. Okay. So with that in mind, let's look at slide 20. Let's talk about the two different types of money. The first type of money is something called a qualified bucket. So qualified money is slide 21. So a qualified bucket is buckets that the IRS has regulated and designates that we have to adhere to. So the IRS has buckets that have rules associated with them that we have to follow. If we don't follow those rules, then they slap us on the hand. So what are qualified buckets? Just some examples or types of qualified buckets. Slide 22. Your 401k is the most popular qualified bucket. So your employer provides it. The company gives the benefit of being able to contribute monies on a pre-tax basis to an account that will grow tax deferred. See that deferred piece? We're going to come back to that until the money is removed. So here's an example of a qualified bucket, slide 23. If you put $100 in this bucket, you pay no taxes. You put $100 in the bucket. And then let's say, for example, that $100 grows to $1,000. We have $900 of growth inside of the bucket. When a time comes for us to remove our money from the bucket, not only do we have to pay taxes on the $900 of growth, but we also have to pay taxes on the $100 basis or the money that we put in. All $1,000 is open to tax. Okay, next slide. So that's 401ks, that's IRAs, which include traditional IRAs, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, Roth IRAs. There's an asterisk behind Roth IRAs. We'll talk about that here in a second. That's kind of a hybrid. Pension plans, if you have a pension, that works this way. Next slide. All right, non-qualified. So non-qualified buckets are where you pay the tax up front. So let's say you had that same $100. Let's say you paid $20 in taxes today on your asset. You put it in the bucket. You have $80 you put in the bucket. Let's say your $80 grows to $1,000. You have $920 of gain. Well, in a non-qualified bucket, you take not only your cost basis of $80 out, but you also take out your gain with zero taxes or reduced taxes. Okay, and we'll talk about what that means here in a second. Next slide. So non-qualified buckets, they have something called capital gain that is used to calculate the taxes. So there's short-term gains, long-term gains. So again, this is not a political conversation. I'm just going to give you facts. So we're operating out of, not in emotion, but just in fact. As of today, short-term gains are going to be taxed just like your W-2 paycheck, which means that you have to pay federal and state taxes on any money you make in your bucket and non-qualified. So short-term means that you own it less than a year. So that means 11 months, 30 days or less. If you sell that asset and you hadn't make any money or any gain, so if you bought it for 10, you sold it for 20, that $10 is going to be subject to the highest taxes, federal and state. That's short-term gain. Long-term, this is what the wealthy do. Long-term is that if you hold that asset and sell it a year and a day, so that's 12 months in one day, then your taxes, depending on all your sources, can easily be 20% or less. Okay, 20% or less. So again, we'll come back to this in a second. Here's a question I kind of want to float out there. Keep it in the back of your brain. Is that, do you think taxes are going to go up or down in the future? Do you think taxes are going to go up or down in the future? And if that's the case, kind of think about this whole conversation and frame whether or not we want to be in qualified buckets or non-qualified buckets. Next slide. So what is a non-qualified bucket? Your house, if you own a home, as of today, is considered a non-qualified bucket. Did you know that if you're married, filing jointly, that you can sell your house and take $500,000 of capital gain with no taxes. So if you bought your house, for an example, for $200,000 and sold it for $700,000, you could do that and pay zero taxes. Fascinating. If you're a business owner and you purchased your business or you started your business on your own and you invested, call it $50,000 in your business, and you grew it to $1 million, you have the ability to sell that business over time and pay taxes on that at a much lower tax rate than you would, if you had another asset that you sold all in the same year, because you can spread it out over time opposed to the same year and have to realize that tax in 1 year. Something called tax brackets, right? You want to spread that income out over time to stay in a lower tax bracket. Life insurance. Little known fact, life insurance is, for the wealthy, is one of the most popular places to put their money, not only for wealth transfer, but also growth. Mutual funds and individual stock. So let's look at them side by side. Slide 28. Qualified, non-qualified. I'm going to blow through this pretty quickly. Is on the left, qualified 401ks, IRAs, pension, Roths. If you're at home, if you have a pen and pad, draw this out, because this will help you in the future evaluate, where you may want to put your money. With that said, if you take your money out early, top right-hand corner of that side of the graph, penalties. There's a 10% penalty if you take the money out before 59 and a half. If you leave the money inside of the bucket past age 72, this year they just adjusted this here recently. It's now age 72. So if you leave your money in that bucket to age 72 or longer, then there's penalties. So there's something called an RMD, required minimum distributions, that you have to start taking your money out so the IRS can tax it. On the right-hand side is the non-qualified. There are no penalties. Take your money out when you want to take your money out. Just be smart. Remember that first year, short-term versus long-term. So remember that. But once you get past that capital gain, then you can operate any way that you want. Okay? So that's non-qualified. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. We need them both. But with that in mind, we need to be aware of how the tax laws are written and how we can use them here on the street. Next slide. Okay, quick case study. Let's say, for example, you're 65 years old and you'd say to yourself, I need $100,000 of income. So in this example, we're going to have you take $50,000 from a qualified bucket. We're going to have you take $50,000 from a non-qualified bucket. And what happens is this, next slide, is that we only have to pay taxes, if done correctly, on $50,000. Let's say you do have to pay a little bit of capital gain and you're at $60,000 of income you have to show. Do you know the difference in tax liability and your tax rates between $100,000 and $50,000? That's pretty amazing. Now, many folks out there that have enough in non-qualified assets, again, don't hate the person that's giving you this information, is that they'll take all of their income from the right-hand side. They won't even have any qualified buckets. They'll take all of their money from the non-qualified side and pay little or no taxes. Okay, but you have to have assets to do it. But there are many folks that have business interests, have the ability to take income from the non-qualified side, all of it being long-term gain, meaning they pay little or no taxes on their income. Okay? All right. Next slide. Real quick, Roth IRAs, still a qualified bucket, but with Roth, you do have to pay the taxes up front. But the awesome thing with Roth is that you can take your money out with no taxes. So you put in 80, it grows to 900,000. You get all 900. You get all 900 with no taxes. The issue with Roth is that there's income limits. So if you make too much money, too much earned income, you're not allowed to have a Roth. That's number one. Number two is that if you work for a decent sized company or corporation, they may offer you a Roth IRA option. So this is a little tip is that find out from your HR department whether or not you have the ability to participate in a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k with your employer. Next slide. All right, here we are again. Final slide. We're going to concentrate at the bottom here. Let's look at the colors. And I know it may be small, so you may have to pull up real close to your screen to see it. But the green is liquid. That's cash. Look at the difference between what the billionaires are doing or millionaires are doing compared to the person that has $100,000 or $10,000. Look at how much money they have in cash, or the percentage of all their assets they have in cash. Interesting. Now let's go all the way over to the right. Now, I'm not going to do that. So for those of you that can't see it because it's kind of small, I'm going to read to you what the other colors are, and you can see how that is represented inside of each one of those income levels. Primary residence. The less money you make or the less net worth you have, the higher the percentage of your primary residence is in your portfolio. So that's that brownish looking color. So if millionaires, it's about a third. 100,000 is half. And then $10,000, typically they don't even own real estate. If they do, it's a big chunk of their assets. The next one over is kind of orange, vehicles. So again, you can see 100 to 10K. There's a lot of money in their driveways. But as you get into million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, look how small the orange is. Teeny tiny. Retirement assets, IRAs, qualified accounts. Billionaires don't even play in that game. Even if you have $100 million, it's tiny, teeny tiny. 10 million, it's getting bigger. 1 million, that's a decent size. Most millionaires have their money in IRAs. Most employees had nice 401ks or pensions, they're millionaires. That is true. But most of their money is in a 401k or an IRA. Okay, and then on up. We have life insurance is next. Other various assets. In the green is mutual funds. In the Carolina blue there is the stocks, so owning individual stocks. Then we have fixed income investments where like bonds. We have managed assets in the blue. And then we see real estate, and then the dark blue, that HU blue is business interests. So I'm going to pause there for a second. Look at the billionaires, look at the 100 millionaires, the 10 millionaires, and the 1 millionaires. They have a whole lot of blue. Why do they have a whole lot of blue? You can probably answer that question. It goes up to the top right-hand corner. 65% of ultra-high net worth individuals are self-made, meaning that they either own their own business or they have interest in businesses. So us as a community, when we're looking at growing our wealth, we really have to look at what are we doing ourselves to do that, because this is what the millionaires are doing out there. Now, it may not be your business. It may be you investing in a business that's throwing off a dividend or throwing off oh boy, my brain just went dead. Throwing off income. It's going to come back to me. It's throwing off income. But remember, they want, if you have an asset, you want that asset to be paid to you using long-term capital gains, so you're paying the shortest amount of tax or the smallest amount of taxes. Okay, and that's why you see the billionaires, millionaires, why they have a lot of business interests or they own those businesses themselves. So in conclusion, I know we're getting ready to take some questions here in a second. Is the more conservative you are, the more aggressive you can be. It's very difficult to think about any of these strategies we've talked about if we're not paying our bills every month. So let's work on our cash reserve. Let's pay down our liabilities. Then once we do that, let's make sure that we're taking our money and analyzing where we're putting it to grow. Are we putting it into non-qualified buckets? Are we putting it into qualified buckets? If we are, why? We want to really be conscious about why we're doing that. And then lastly, it's, how do we move ourselves as a community, into, that very high, ultra high, or that billionaire status? How do we do it? How do we need to start thinking, in order to be able to do that? So that's all I have, family, right now. Of course, I can dive into any of these examples deeper in different presentations, but hopefully this will give you a little insight, into how money works and what type of practical tools that we have control over ourselves, to help our where we are today and where we want to go, in the future, for not only for yourselves, but also for your families, as well. So I will pause right there, and I think we may have a few minutes for questions.
Yes. We do have some time for questions. So thank you so much, Will, for taking us through that very informative presentation. We do have our first question to come in, which is what are your thoughts on purchasing stock slices that are being promoted by investment firms? Is this a legit way to start investing in the market?
It depends. Depends on the company. I would say. Depends on your level of risk. It's not bad. It's not a bad way. I mean, especially if you're trying to buy into a Apple or a Tesla or an Amazon. So these companies did stock splits, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 stock splits a couple of weeks ago, and they still are going for $500 a share, right? So yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. With that in mind, are there some other stocks that may not be as popular or may not get as much press that if you do some research, may be just as good a deal or a better deal than buying a fraction of a share of one of the bigger names. But it is becoming a lot more popular. With the technology that's out there today, you can do that, because they can track it, pretty well. I'm not a huge fan. I think with a little more research, you take that same dollar and find a company that may not be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Maybe it's on page 3, but the opportunity for growth is just as high, and then you can own a whole share yourself.
Great. Thank you for that. I guess a question that has also come in is where is the best place to start moving towards gaining financial stability and wealth?
It depends. Depends on where you are today, and how you feel about making money and losing money in the market. And that means in your brain, in your heart, and also in your gut. We talked about the emotional side of investing. That was the first third of the presentation. So it just really depends on how old you are, how much money you have, how much debt you have, and then ultimately where do you want to go. So if we can take it, and if you have an advisor or somebody that you can speak to that's in the industry, they can help quantify those things. They can actually put a number by each one of those, and then figure out what they call risk tolerance is. And based on your risk tolerance, then they should have a access to different buckets that they can present to you to help you get there. So there's no magic bullet though. Let me just say that there is no magic bullet that can do it all by itself. Diversification, is the key. And we're all different. But rules to the money are true. Just look at the chart down here at the bottom. The rules they've made it very clear that these are the rules of the game. So how we decide to play based on our level of risk, that's something different. Great question.
Thank you. I wish it was mine. It wasn't mine, but I'll take credit. But the another question that I have is around what advice do you have as it pertains to the different generations or different stages that people would have in life? I guess kind of going along the same lines of that previous question, but saying you're nearing retirement, you're middle age to or if you're young, how would you, what advice would you give for that?
I know you guys are gonna hate me. It depends. So typically the closer you're getting to, and nobody retires anymore, right? That word is gone. Really, it should be replaced with work optional, right? So work optional meaning that you're still going to go and do something, but it's something that is a passion project. So whether or not you get paid for it or not, you really don't care, but we're still always working. So I call it work optional, with clients. So how close to work optional are you when we're making these decisions? Quite frankly, the level of risk, the closer you are to becoming work optional, the less risk your portfolio should have. Absolutely. Because if you can remember back to the chart, I'm just going to pick on the folks, that had a lot of money or stocks back between 96 and 2000. I can remember that because I had just graduated, from Morehouse at the time. And I had my mom was thinking about retiring. And I remember hearing her say that I'm going to retire in the next few years because the stock market is going up. And then I can remember, 6 months later, I remember her saying, I am not going to retire in 6 months, because the stock market just crashed. So she ended up having to work for another 5 to 10 years after that. So that's a bias that's in my brain because I remember seeing that. So I would say that the closer you are to work optional, the more conservative your portfolio definitely needs to be. So that way the volatility or the ups and downs in the market doesn't affect, what your goals are. Another great question.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me see if there's any more questions coming up. I will share a question or a comment maybe you can talk on that I've heard very often. There are a lot of people that are very focused on utilizing real estate to build wealth. And at this chart here in the billionaire section, real estate is not as large as I would have expected it. So curious on your thoughts as it relates to real estate and wealth building.
Yeah. So I love real estate. I'm a real estate fan. I've had my real estate license since I was 20. And I'm not going to tell y'all how old I am now, but long time. So I'm a huge real estate fan. But what type of real estate? So many of the billionaires there, they own a lot of real estate, but typically it's inside of a company. So if you see there in the blue, is inside of that blue will be, they may own an LLC that owns a company that generates income each year that then pays them. So independently themselves, they will not participate in real estate, but they will participate in real estate as part of another organization or a group of people, like it's called a limited partnership. They'll participate, but they won't do it where they just buy and sell it. They'll buy and sell it. It'll be something like an office building, maybe a casino, a resort, something that, drives revenue and quite frankly is a business in itself. So they do own it, but not individually. They own it as part of another venture. Great question, though. I'm a huge real estate fan.
Good. Well, I think that's all we've got for questions for you, Will. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to say as a closeout for your session, but thank you so much for coming and chatting with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. If you have access to an advisor out there, please, take the notes that you've taken today and kind of bounce it off of them. If you don't, I tried to have my on most of the slides, my email address, my website in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you want to go to the website, there's a place there where you can drop your data in, and then my staff will give you a call to set up a one-on-one. So, regardless, take this information, bounce it off some people that you respect or somebody that you love, because it could be potentially valuable for them. So I appreciate allowing me to hang out with you this afternoon. And God bless you guys, and go Morehouse, but go HU.
Thanks, Will. And can you just give us your website just in case they didn't catch it in the slides?
Sure. It's V as in Victor, S as in Sam, -financial.com. So VictorSam-financial.com.
All right. Thanks again so much, Will, and appreciate you taking the time on this Saturday.
Thank you, family.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Hamptonians, we're nearing the end of the session, but last but certainly not least, next up is the newly promoted Brint Martin, who's the Assistant VP of Alumni Affairs. So congratulations on that, Brent, and she's also an alum to the school, class of 99 and class of 07. So I want to bring her on as she's going to give us some updates from the Office of Alumni Affairs. Thank you so much for taking the time, Brent, to join us. Oh, you're muted. Oh,
First, thank you for having me. And I did not know that was out there yet, so I wasn't going to mention it, but thank you. I appreciate the congratulatory message on that. And again, I'm excited to be here with everyone just to give a kind of a quick recap on how we so strongly closed out what would have been a very, very tough fiscal year for 2020, and kind of how we want to use that same energy and approach going into 2021. I want to begin by first saying thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you because 2020, as we all know, was a very difficult year. And it would not have been possible without, first of all, the leadership of NHAA from a national level, regional level, local level, the alumni volunteers that put in the work and the time and the effort to help drive energy and messaging and involvement was really, really critical last year. So I want to begin by saying thank you to you all. as well as to all of the membership and to also all of the volunteer alumni leaders that work with the classes and our special affinity activity groups. Everyone pitched in such a tremendous fashion last year, and it was really critical to us having a record year. And it would just not even be a thing if I didn't begin there. But just to give some information on what we all accomplished last year, is that first we were able to raise over 3.5 million for the university last year, which was record for us. Our average has been about 2 million to 2.4 million. When COVID reached us or became the big thing in March, with the leadership of administration, there was an immediate change, and we had to do a lot of fast thinking, and everyone kind of chipped in and pitched in, and we really didn't know what we were going to be able to do, but through innovation and creativity, we thought of a lot of virtual activities, virtual events, and ways to keep us all connected and involved and checking in on one another. And that was what was first and foremost. What we wanted to make sure of was that the health of our students was first and foremost, that the health and well-being of our alumni and extended family was also very, very important. And we wanted to give just time to doing that. So we tried to think of things that were out of the box. We tried to think of just little ways to connect, little ways to have games together, conversations together. And so we took on a lot of virtual events, and we took on a lot of opportunity to just really talk about what's important. And that's what this time really made us do, is think about what was important. And then eventually we took that conversation into what we began to notice, which was, how do we ensure that our alma mater survives, makes it through this tough period, and doesn't hit too hard of a rough patch? And as I mentioned, as alum, we really, really stepped up. And so now that we have a sense of the power that we have, I look forward to what we have next coming up with this year. Some of the information just to share with you all about what we accomplished again was our average alumni gift last year was about $353. Though that was down a little bit from last year, we had a surge in the number of donors, overall donors. We went from over 5,000 donors, just under 5,500 donors, to over 10,000 donors. And that was just a tremendous rallying cry. So we made a major push in moving our alumni participation rate up. And we were able to move that into the range of 40%, which was up from about our high prior to that was 31%. We had an outstanding senior gift donated by 959 students, and that was $2,375 on behalf of the students that also went to assist us in our numbers for this year. Going forward, just to also recap, we had an amazing day of giving, which is how we closed out this past fiscal year. We did that on June 30th, and as everyone knows, that's our 24-hour fundraising on behalf of Hampton University. In that 24-hour period, we were able to acquire 8,459 gifts. That came from 6,994 donors during that 24-hour period. And we raised our largest amount for a day of giving, which was $1,557,927.95. So we really, really raised the bar as a whole. And like I said, just look forward to what we are able to accomplish in this upcoming year. Going into 2021, as you can already see, it's having to make what happened in the last 3 months of the last fiscal year fit for at least a semester, if not for another full year. We are hoping and planning for a full-fledged reunion this year, although as we have all stated, that is going to be dependent upon the safety and where things are with regards to the pandemic overall, and whether or not it is safe or by state law legal to hold such an event in May. We do plan to have a virtual homecoming. Events are still being planned. We are working currently with the Department of Athletics as well as the Office of Student Affairs and student activities to plan some wonderful activities. And what we have already in the works, I think everyone will really, really enjoy. There's going to be an all-out push to really, really celebrate the tradition of HBCU homecomings. And then on top of that, we will have some staples such as 40 under 40 and a few other things that we look forward to in our personal homecomings during that time frame as well. Currently, that time frame is homecoming is rescheduled for October 19th through the 25th. And those are the main updates. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but I just really wanted to take an opportunity just to give some quick notes. We do plan to, again, continue having interesting conversations, bringing more painting sips, bringing more chef nights. We've been talking to alum that are chefs to see if we can have some nice cooking nights and some fun activities and or date nights for families. Just some unique ways to get together and to connect. And we want to keep thinking out of the box. So we also look if there are any ideas or if you have a way that you can help us bring something to the alumni family, we look forward to that as well.
I do know that there's been quite a few questions that have come into us that I'm not sure if you can answer, is around graduation. And if anyone knows, what's any updates as it relates to, will there be a graduation? How are they going? Are there any plans on how that will be handled?
For the class of 2020 or 2021?
I think the question is for both.
Well, as you know, we did do a preliminary celebration of the class of 2020 virtually, and we participated in a number of national and or HBCU commencement activities for them. However, the expectation is that if we are able to host an in-person graduation for the class of 2021, the plan right now is for 2020 to be able to return to participate in May. Along with that, same invitation is extended to all of our reunion classes to participate in May for those who didn't get to celebrate in 2020 if they would like.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then I don't see any questions yet, but one additional question I'd have is that might be helpful for some of the chapter presidents that are on the YouTube and watching is, what more would you like from those from the local chapters and those on the ground to do to help continue this fantastic trajectory that we've got going as far as alumni giving and participation goes?
I think all of us are driving a really important conversation, which is the personal responsibility we all have as alumni in the sustainability and long-term sustainability of Hampton. I think number one, continuing that conversation, continuing to drive engagement, getting people involved. I think it's going to be critical to get our young alumni involved because we need them in leadership roles. We need them active in chapters. We need them bringing new ideas and new ways to just continue to spread the word about Hampton University. And I think that if we all continue to do those things, and like I said, think outside of the box, I think we will continue to, rise to the occasion as it relates to taking on our own personal responsibility for the sustainability of Hampton.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think it's great that to be able to partner with each other as we continue this push through is going to be, great to see how that impacts. I have a question that's come in. What kind of events can we expect during homecoming, virtual homecoming? And when will the schedule of events be published?
Okay, as I mentioned, the steps that we've taken so far is we have gotten the approval to move forward with a virtual homecoming. So we, as a university, are now in the planning phase. We do have a number of opportunities to partner with companies and other HBCU, not commencement, but homecoming activities, which once those things are finalized, we hope to be able to bring everything to you all, from concerts, gospel concerts, panel discussions, interesting conversations with different celebrities, as well as I mentioned, some signature Hampton things that we're used to seeing, for ourselves. I don't want to speak too fast on things. So we are, like I said, in talks, and that would be, again, our office, the Department of Athletics, and student activities. And as we put this final schedule together, we're hoping to be able to at least drop some information in early October, considering we have about a week or so left in September. But early October, we're hoping to be able to drop some information so that you have an idea of what's coming up.
All right, thanks. I know October is sneaking up on us, right?
Yes.
I agree. It's knocking on my door. I've got a lot of things due in October. So next question, when can chapters expect to receive an updated alumni contact list?
Okay. Great question. I've gotten it several times. At this time, what is occurring is we are, again, going through restructuring. In that restructuring period, we're also looking at some of our processes, NDAs, and we're trying to make it a process where we can have more of a freedom of a sharing process with the information, but we have to ensure the security of alumni data and alumni information. With that being the case, because there are laws that kind of govern those things, we have to ensure everyone fully understands both what we're sharing, what their responsibilities are with that information, what their responsibilities are with regards to fundraising. As we package all of this information and get these resources together, we should be able to begin doing that soon. I'm hoping, again, that this information can happen before we get out of October.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question. How do you feel that NHAA has contributed to such a great giving outcome?
Well, as I even started, the first thing is that as the Office of Alumni Affairs, we are a staff of 10. What's critical to everything are our alumni volunteers, and that includes NHAA leadership, as I mentioned, national, regional, local level. That includes our class leaders. That includes those affinity group leaders that say, hey, we want to take on fundraising for specific areas of the university that involve either professional development or student experience relationships. So while we are a staff of 10 and we help to drive the messaging for the priority of the university, it is our alumni volunteers that help us spread the word and on a local level reach out to getting people involved that really help to make it happen.
Awesome. I think I see another question coming in. One question I do have, this is a Gena question. As you know, I know you are still looking at what the final giving data is and everything as it pertains to that. Do you track it by, I don't know, maybe it's by major, by school, by year of graduation, range of years? Is there a way that you track it to be able to better focus in on what events and things would be great to push that? Or is there a way that NHAA and the chapters can help if you have any categories that starts to hash out any information?
With everything we're doing, which I think has been extremely helpful in the last few years as well, is we've gotten a lot better at targeted messaging, targeting with regards to involvement volunteer opportunities, mentoring opportunities, engagement opportunities. Targeting is critical for the success of anything. So yes, we break down the data in a lot of different ways. Now that determines, again, what we send to who. And so, yes, we will continue to do that. We are looking at expanding our capabilities of being able to do that so that we will be able to, again, not bother people on things that aren't necessarily priorities to them, but ensuring that everybody's hearing what they want to hear about, when they want to hear about it in a timely fashion.
Great, thank you. Next question, comment. Congrats again on your promotion. How will this change what you are currently doing, and will a director be hired to replace your position?
As of right now, I am still over the Office of Alumni Affairs, and I also am over the Office of the Annual Fund. So as of right now, I will still be in this same capacity. There hasn't been a named director, and any additional changes to structure has not been determined at this time. So that's probably the most I can give with regards to that. But in terms of my involvement right now, I'm still acting in the same capacity with added responsibilities for managing the annual fund, which is not only alumni, but also faculty and staff.
Got it. I was just going to ask what's the difference for people so that they knew that. And a question did come in about what is the giving percentage currently. I know you mentioned 40%. I just want to make sure that that's the right number.
Currently, right now, it's 40%. They have not completed the full audit of 2020. Once, of course, we get the completed audit of 2020, that number may go up or down just based on what the final output will be.
Got it. Thank you. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. Is there anything additional that you wanted to maybe close out with as we in this session?
Again, just a huge thank you to everyone. I am extremely excited about the opportunities that we have in front of us. I look forward to the additional conversations, the expanded opportunities that we can all work together. And again, that's not just with NHAA, even on an individual level. Everyone has something to offer, not only to just moving Hampton, but moving each other forward. So I'm just excited for what's to come. So thank you all, and thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you, Brent, for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And always great to work with you. So thank you again. To everyone that's been on the Biennial today, I just want to say it's been awesome. Again, as I close this out, I'm just going to ask everyone to make sure that if you haven't yet, you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You make sure that you register at the NHAA website so that we can connect you with your local chapter leaders. And then if you are able, please consider giving to back to the university or to the different funds that are out there, from both on the university site to the emergency fund that NHAA has. And then also make sure that you give back to your department or school that you graduated from, and look to work with them as they are, I'm sure, are in need of having some virtual guests or alumni to be able to speak with students and mentor. Other than that, I'm going to close this out and say again, send Hampton hugs to everyone, and continue to send prayers to everyone that might be impacted by the different natural disasters that are going on across the country. Thank you guys so much for coming to the 14th Biennial.